Rudo was a slum dweller who often broke into the junkyards of rich people to steal usable things. However, when he gets framed for his foster father's murder and gets thrown into the pit where all the garbage of the world ends up, he is forced to fight gigantic monsters made of garbage to climb his way back up and get revenge. The world is divided into two parts. On one side, there is the pristine city with rich people living their best lives, and on the other side, there are the slums where people like him belong. The only constant is the pit, where all garbage ends up, including criminals. The rich people who live in the city casually throw away even slightly damaged items without hesitation. Like the woman who tells her daughter to throw away the puppy toy she just bought because it got damaged. She tells her that the toy will become ugly if they try to repair it, and they can just buy another one later. The girl has no problem with that, and her mother throws the puppy along with other garbage into the small garbage vent that leads it straight to a truck in an underground tunnel that leads to a giant trash collection site. However, the young Rudo is inside the trash collection site too, eyeing the stuff the trucks are carrying. He sneaks into the trash collection site and enters one of the rooms, but unfortunately, one guard hears some sound coming from the room, and he immediately checks inside to find someone rummaging through the garbage. The guard barges inside the room with his gun pointed at the trash thief Rudo, calling him a disgusting degenerate who is threatening the beauty of the city by hoarding trash. Rudo doesn't even respond to this because he hears those things every Tuesday, but then the guard sounds the alarm, calling for backup. Just as more guards arrive there, Rudo throws some garbage bags at them, and the clean freaks can't handle some raw eggs on their uniform, so they just watch him climb up the vent without doing anything. Rudo comes out of the vent near the exit, but the gate closes on his face, and just then, more guards come there.
Open fire! Stop here! What a bunch of shitheads. Yeah, I'm the threat, assholes.
The next day, the news about the garbage raiders spreads through the city, with the people blaming the slum dwellers for it. On the other side of the wall, the slum dwellers know exactly whom to blame because it is not the first time Rudo has entered the trash collection sites. They think that he will be caught one day, and most of them actually hope that he does. Rudo doesn't care about them as he sets his shop to sell the repaired goods he found. When his friend Chiwa arrives there to lash out at him, she asks him why the hell does he take such a big risk just to scavenge through the trash of the city people. And he replies that those rich bastards don't even care about throwing perfectly usable things. He feels sorry for the things they throw out, so he retrieves them. And since he can get some money by selling them, it is even better. Chiwa seems to understand him, but just then, 3 boys arrive there, clenching their noses as they say that someone reeks of garbage here. They tell Chiwa to stay away from Rudo, or she will smell like garbage too. They insult his thick black gloves that he has not washed since Obama was the president, and say that just one touch from them will give anyone rashes. One boy kicks the lantern Rudo just fixed, saying that no one will buy this garbage from him. He says that Rudo's hands are even creepier than the gloves, which is why he keeps them hidden. Rudo silently hears everything they say, but when one boy calls him the son of a murderer, he suddenly gets furious. The boys, however, don't stop, saying that the slum was made to imprison criminals and the people who live here now are their descendants. That is why they always try to keep their reputation clean, but Rudo's dad brought shame to them by becoming a murderer. Rudo can't tolerate the insults anymore, and he gives a death stare to the boys, who crap their pants and immediately run away, still cursing Rudo and saying that he will become a murderer like his dad one day. Rudo then quietly starts fixing the lantern again, and Chiwa tells him that she believes that he is a good person who will never turn out like his dad. He gets embarrassed on hearing that, but before he can thank her, Chiwa's attention goes to the puppy toy he got from the dump last night. Turns out, Rudo brought the puppy as a gift for her in the first place, but before he can give it to her and increase his risk score, Chiwa's mom comes there and takes her away. Rudo heads home after that and finds his adoptive dad Regto waiting for him. Regto suddenly starts mimicking how nervous he was while trying to give the puppy to Chiwa, and Rudo turns red because he didn't spot him watching them. Regto tells him that they will talk about it later because first, they need to talk about Rudo's little trip to the junkyard. Regto tells him that he doesn't need to push himself so hard because they are not that broke. He thinks that Rudo feels a bit indebted to him because he adopted him after his biological dad was thrown into the pit for being a murderer. But Rudo says it is not like that. He tells Regto that he considers him family, and he is just trying to do his part. Regto simply tells him to be this honest with Chiwa too, and Rudo suddenly fumbles hard, injuring the gun wound from last night. Regto immediately starts giving him first aid and also changes the bandages around his hands while he is at it. As Rudo looks at his hands, he recalls how they have been injured for as long as he has known. People always judged him for that, and sometimes his wounds started hurting like hell out of nowhere. Then one day, Regto gave him the black gloves that magically suppressed the pain. After Regto is done tending to Rudo's wounds, he tells him to confess to Chiwa soon or someone else might swoop her away, and while the two of them are bantering about it, a creepy masked guy listens to everything from the streets. The next day, Rudo finally works up courage to tell his feelings to Chiwa, and heads towards her home with the puppy. But on the way, he comes across a scene that is not really rare in the slums. At the edge of the slums, there is the pit, where all garbage and serious criminals are thrown. Today, another criminal is being thrown into the pit and Rudo can only watch the execution, wondering what happens to the people inside the pit. Just then, Chiwa comes there, saying that it is quite a brutal sight, and Rudo panics because he was not ready to meet her yet. Chiwa suddenly starts talking about the executions and other stuff, and then she tells Rudo that she doesn't want him to get thrown into the pit. She says that there might be a lot of stuff that shouldn't be thrown out as garbage, but it is not a good enough reason to risk his life. Rudo replies that Recto said the same thing and Chiwa says that it is because Recto loves him too. Rudo takes a second to process that Chiwa said that Recto loves him too, and his brain with 2 MB RAM understands that Chiwa means that she loves him. She gets flustered on realizing that her words could be interpreted that way, but Rudo has already lost his mind. He falls on the ground, clutching his face, and then gives the puppy toy to Chiwa, saying that she might not want it because it came from the garbage, but he thought the puppy would be happier with her. To his utter delight, Chiwa accepts the toy, saying that she will cherish it, and Rudo is happier than he has ever been. He jumps and dances on his way back home, thinking that he needs to boast about it to Rigto immediately. On the way, he bumps into some guards who don't even bother with him, but he is curious about why they are in the slums. Anyway, Rudo reaches home and starts telling Rigto about what happened just as he opened the door, but he is left aghast when he sees Rigto on the ground with a creepy masked man on top of him. The masked man turns around to take one look at Rudo before plunging his knife deeper into Rigto's body. Rudo loses his cool on seeing this and charges at the masked man, but he gets hit so hard that he doesn't even realize when he got knocked out. By the time Rudo comes to his senses, the masked murderer has finished his job. He picks up a book from the floor and heads outside, briefly glancing at Rudo who tries following him, but then he hears Rigto's voice. Rigto is still alive somehow, and with his dying breath, he tells Rudo to run away. Rudo immediately goes next to him, promising that he will get help, but Rigto just tells him to run away and change this shit heap of a world into something better. With that, Rigto's body falls limp and Rudo can't process what is happening. Just then, the soldiers arrive there and they zap Rudo, believing him to be the murderer. They pin him to the ground as they tell him that he is being arrested for murder, and Rudo tells them that it was not him. The guards tell him that nothing he says matters anymore because they caught him red-handed. He keeps trying to tell them that the real murderer has just left the house and they can still catch him, but the guards don't even want to listen to him, so they just knock him out using the traditional method of punching him in the head. Soon, Rudo is taken to the scaffold to be executed for his crimes. Everyone from the slums is present there to witness him being thrown into the pit, and even some high-profile people from the main city are there. The judge tells Rudo that murder is one of the greatest crimes one can commit, and even though he killed a mere slum dweller, the punishment will not be reduced. He declares Rudo to be killed by throwing him into the pit, and the people start cheering on hearing this. Rudo still can't believe this is happening to him, and he wishes for just one person to believe that he is not a murderer. His eyes scan through the crowd, and they stop at Chiwa. Rudo yells at her, saying that he did not kill Rigto. He asks her to find the culprit, but she just says that she trusted him, but he was not worthy of that. She says that he was a murderer's son in the end and drops the toy as she turns his back on him. Her betrayal hurts Rudo more than anything else, and he snaps at the people calling him human filth who deserves to be thrown into the pit. He says that they are the real filth here because they are just blobs of meat without a brain or a will. He swears that he will send them all to hell, when suddenly, he notices that the murderer is among the crowd as well. However, he gets no chance to tell anyone about it as he is thrown off the edge. Rudo feels like he has been falling forever, and at one point, he loses consciousness. Luckily, all the garbage at the bottom of the pit breaks his landing, and when he wakes up, he is completely unharmed. He wonders what the hell is happening and how is he still alive, when the stench of the place suddenly hits him. Even the garbage thief is forced to block the smell, and then he notices the vast sea of garbage in front of him along with things that he doesn't recognize. Rudo wonders what the hell is this place when suddenly a giant shadow covers him. He turns around to see what is happening, and he can't believe his eyes when he sees a gigantic monster made out of garbage bearing its fangs at him. Rudo's mind goes blank for a moment on seeing the monster, and he recalls how he always found it strange that everyone was so obsessed with sending garbage and human filth to the bottom of the pit. Yet no one ever cared about what actually happened to them below. They didn't even think about what else could be at the bottom, and that bothered him more than anything else. However, he quickly snaps out of it and starts running for his life as the gigantic monster starts approaching him. Things suddenly take a turn for worse as the monster roars loudly, and as a result, more monsters pop out from the garbage pile. They start chasing after Rudo, who runs as fast as he can, but it is all pointless because he soon gets trapped. He wonders what these monsters are and if they are really piles of junk that can move on their own. The monsters suddenly pounce on him, and he somehow dodges their attacks. He tries to run away but trips and falls right on top of a human skull, making him realize what his fate is going to be. Rudo curses at the bastards who threw him down to the hellish place, and just then, the heap of garbage he was standing on crumbles down. Rudo quickly finds himself at the bottom of a cliff that keeps him at a safe distance from the monsters, but there is another thing that is killing him. He realizes that the air of this place is literally poison, and if he breathes it for too long, his lungs will be torn apart. He covers his mouth and nose with his gloves, hoping to find a place to hide and recover. But then he suddenly realizes that a safe space might not even exist in this hell. He begins losing hope and suddenly pukes out blood, the sound of which attracts the monsters towards him again. Rudo falls on the ground, unable to move, and he almost accepts his fate when suddenly, Ricto's dying body pops up in his memories. A strange power suddenly surges through Rudo's hands, but he doesn't notice it. However, he feels his vision changing, and he starts seeing lights coming out from the garbage piles and from the iron pipe in front of him. Rudo crawls towards it, determined to stay alive because he has a reason to live. He grabs the iron pipe and gets up, declaring that he will return to the surface and get his revenge on the people who sent him here and on the bastard who killed his dad. Rage starts swelling up inside him, and the monsters sneak towards him using this chance. However, as one of them attacks him, Rudo simply hits it away with the iron pipe without even bothering to look at it. As a result of that attack, a can flies away and hits the umbrella of another resident of the pit, who is surprised that someone who can fight against the monsters has arrived here. Meanwhile, Rudo has gone batshit crazy while fighting the monsters. He doesn't care about the poisonous air or the blood flowing down his nose as he keeps jumping around, and even getting slammed into the huge rocks at great speed doesn't seem to do much damage to him. A monster crushes the rock he was stuck on, burying him in rubble, but Rudo gets out and pulls a pole along with him. He swings it with full strength, dealing great damage to the monster, but then suddenly, another monster emerges from right underneath him. Rudo somehow jumps away from its jaws, but then the results of breathing in the poisonous air finally hit him. He begins spewing blood again, and the monsters use this chance to creep up on him. Luckily, his mysterious power rises once again, giving him the strength and madness to stand in his position even as two monsters attack him at the same time. Rudo comes out of the collision safely and uses a metal sheet to cut the skull of the first monster. He then attacks the second monster, slashing it in half and causing it to explode. He takes a break after that, but then another gigantic monster begins walking towards him. The moment Rudo sees it, he decides to run away and regain his strength, but the monster stomps on the ground with its full strength, releasing a shockwave that blows him away. However, as Rudo opens his eyes, he is shocked to see a guy wearing a creepy mask standing on top of him. He wonders who is this guy and where did he come from, but the man suddenly lifts him up and kicks him ahead. Rudo coughs up some blood and is about to throw hands when the guy suddenly puts a gas mask on his face, allowing him to breathe again. Rudo is really confused now, and he asks the man if he is a local. He wants to know about this place and the monsters here, but the masked man just asks him to be silent. Obviously, someone with a single-digit IQ can't understand orders, and Rudo keeps asking him about this place loudly. The masked man once again whispers at him to shut up, but Rudo tells him to speak more clearly. He asks if they are underground, and the masked man finally snaps at this. He forgets his own advice and yells at Rudo, telling him that they are not underground but above the surface, and it is the fault of the people living at the top for turning this place into a hellhole. He then tells Rudo that the giant monsters made out of trash are attracted to sound, and thanks to him not shutting up, they have noticed him now. The masked man says that the trash beasts can't be defeated with ordinary weapons, so their best choice was to sneak away silently, but they can't do it anymore. One monster reaches behind them by this point, and the masked man decides to deal with it before anything else. A golden energy suddenly emerges from his arm and coats his umbrella, transforming it into a weapon. The monster attacks them, but the masked man simply swirls his umbrella in its face, using it like a hand-held blender to grind away the monster. The monster's pieces fall away everywhere, and they suddenly turn to dust. Rudo was already surprised by the strange power-up, but now he is even more curious about the monsters not regenerating after being hit by this attack. Just then, a huge horde of monsters arrive there, but the masked guy is confident that he can deal with all of them. He dashes towards the monsters, quickly blowing them up with his bladed umbrella, and then jumps up, using his umbrella as a parachute. Rudo wonders if this is some kind of technology the people in the pit use, or if it is unique to the masked man. Meanwhile, the masked man drifts in front of the last remaining giant monster, who suddenly spits a ball of acid at him. He blocks and scatters the acid with his umbrella, and the acid violently explodes on hitting the garbage patches. The masked man then uses the monster's head as a base to jump up higher, and after that, he pours more energy into his umbrella, increasing its size and destructive power. He dives towards the monster's head with that, cutting through him and the ground as well. Once that is done, the masked man heads back to Rudo, who asks him who the hell is he. The man removes his mask and introduces himself as Injin, a simple cleaner, but the very next moment, the sick air makes him regret his decision. Injin curses Rudo for making him take off his mask, and then suddenly, Rudo collapses. While he is unconscious, he dreams of an incident from his childhood. He had returned home after being bullied and pushed into the sewer by the other boys because he told them that objects are alive, and they didn't believe him. Recto asked him if he hit the boys back, and Rudo replied that he did not. He asked Recto if he was really telling the truth when he said that when an object is treated with care, a soul will eventually come to inhabit it. As Recto cleaned him up, he said that the story was just an old legend to make people cherish what they had. But personally, he liked to believe that everything had a soul. Rudo grew increasingly curious on hearing this and asked if the things around their house had a soul too, including his gloves. Recto just replied that if he treats them with care, they would have a soul one day. Rudo suddenly wakes up from his dream with that, and he finds himself chained and being dragged by Injin. Rudo curses him, telling him to let him free, but Injin says that he is just taking him to a safe place. Rudo doesn't care about that anymore because he wants to go back up to get his revenge, but those words make Injin stop in his tracks. He tells Rudo that it is impossible to climb back up to the place they call the sphere, which is basically in the sky, and it is constantly on the move. He then resumes dragging Rudo, saying that getting back is not possible now, and he should just calm down and accept his new situation. Rudo, however, refuses to give up, saying that he will get back to the sphere at all costs. He believes that Injin knows the way to go there, but is hiding it from him, and he yells at him to tell him everything he knows, or he will keep shouting till more monsters come. Injin is pissed at this, and he tells Rudo that he will tell him exactly what kind of place this is. He starts dragging him even more carelessly and finally takes him to a clearing in a canyon that is 100 times cleaner than the surroundings. Injin drops him there, telling him to have fun as he quickly leaves. Rudo curses him to at least free him, but Injin goes away without saying anything. Suddenly, a bunch of men wearing gas masks come out of the trucks, and they start heading towards Rudo. He wonders if they are the inhabitants of this place, and the people are also incredibly curious about him. Judging by his clothes, they wonder if he is from the sphere, and they creepily approach him with their questions. Rudo nervously tells them that he fell from the sphere, and the men suddenly throw away their masks. They seem really excited to see a living sphere dweller with them because they always found their dead bodies in the past. They get overly curious and begin examining Rudo's face, and he immediately moves away from them. The men tell him that they mean no harm and start untying him, which makes him think that they are much nicer than Injin. However, it all turns out to be a trap, and soon, Rudo finds himself chained really tightly inside a truck. He wonders what the hell is happening, but the men outside talk about how lucky they are to get a real living spherite because he will definitely fetch an enormous amount. They talk about how people pay crazy money for the body parts and clothes of the dead spherites, and finding a rare one will drive them crazy. The leader of the men then tells Rudo that the reason people are willing to pay such a huge amount of money for spherites is because they hate them. He curses the people living in the sphere who dumped all their waste on the planet until it piled up, poisoning the air and creating monsters. The people who died from the monsters or lost their homes because of the toxic air and land bear deep grudges against the spherites, and once they find a live one, they will go medieval on his. The leader then decides to feed Rudo something to welcome him to the surface, and that food is rotten meat and other spoiled things. He keeps mocking him throughout, saying that spherites like him don't even touch garbage, so he can't possibly digest food like this. However, as he tries to shove a piece of meat down Rudo's throat, the man makes the biggest mistake of his life. Rudo suddenly bites his fingers, tearing out the flesh from them and chewing it up along with the rotten stuff he ate earlier. He then starts eating the rotten food, saying that it is not trash because it is still perfectly edible. The man crap their pants because they have never seen a beast like this, but that is just the beginning. Rudo is mad at everyone for labeling things as trash and unworthy of being used, and he is no longer going to take it sitting down. His power manifests again, and he breaks free from his chains. He jumps outside and releases his energy onto the ground, lifting the objects around him. Injin watches everything from a distance, and he is really pleased to see that Rudo turned out to be a giver, a person who can give life to objects and draw out their power, just like him. Meanwhile, on the ground, Rudo thinks about Ricto's words that treating objects with care makes them alive, and they treat their humans with care too. He throws away his mask and grabs the chain used to tie him, infusing it with life and turning it into a weapon. The men rush towards him, but Rudo just hits the ground with his chain, forcing them to retreat. Their leader tells them to target the chain because a giver is useless without their object, and his men succeed in disarming Rudo quickly. However, to their utter shock and Injin's utter delight, Rudo picks up a tire and turns it into a weapon too, which is too rare even for powerful givers. He makes quick work of the men and then moves on to their leader, who keeps cursing him while crapping his pants. But just as Rudo is about to strike him, Injin comes there and stops him. Rudo suddenly snaps out of his frenzy, and his power dies down. The tire he was using suddenly turns to dust, and Rudo gets a nosebleed as he tries to figure out exactly what he did just now. Injin says that using his power so recklessly is bound to tire his body. He then apologizes for testing Rudo like this, but he wanted to make sure of his powers. He promises to tell him everything about this world and his powers, but in exchange, he wants Rudo to join the cleaners because they need people like him to fight the monsters. However, that is a bit too much for Rudo to process, and he says that he doesn't want to join them. As it turns out, Injin doesn't know what the word no means, and he takes Rudo to a clinic to get treated while calling his friend that he found a genius and recruited him into the cleaners. Rudo is shocked to hear that because he never agreed to join him. He says that he needs to go back to the sphere immediately, but the creepy doctor with eyes wider than the holes on a pool table tells him to stop talking. He screams at Rudo for going out into the no man's land, because the air there is literally poison. He calls him an idiot sandwich for getting kidnapped on top of that, and tells him to thank Injin who rescued him from 2 horrible fates in one day. Rudo curses Injin in his mind, and then the doctor, who turns out to be an old woman and gets offended when Rudo calls him an old man. Once she is done with the treatment, she kicks Rudo and Injin out. Outside, Rudo thanks Injin for paying for his treatment, and tells him that he just needs information on how to get back. He says that he doesn't have any time to become a cleaner or whatever is it that he calls himself. But Injin replies that he hoped that being kidnapped would teach him how spherites are treated down here. He tells Rudo that if anyone finds out that he is from the sphere, he will regret being born, and moreover, he cannot find any information for free here. Injin then leads him to a desolate dystopian city, but it is a lot better than the filthy world outside. He even treats Rudo to a burger, and he gulps it down without holding back because he puked out all the rotten meat he ate a while back. He used to think that the bottom of the pit would be filled with nothing but garbage. But there are cities here with people living in them. He notices a girl going inside the store and starts staring at her, but then Injin decides to give him a lesson about the surface. He says that garbage isn't the only thing that builds up here, as emotions also build up in the form of an energy called anima. The trash beasts are one of the ways in which anima manifests itself, and though they mostly stick to the garbage dumps, they sometimes attack the cities as well. He says that normal weapons can't hurt the trash beasts because their cores are made of anima, but Rudo's gloves can. Rudo is surprised to hear this, and Injin tells him that when an object is treated with care for a long time, anima gathers inside it as well, and they call such objects vital instruments. Vital instruments can destroy the cores of trash beasts, but not everyone can draw out the power inside of them. Injin says that people like them who can draw out that power are called givers, and their organization, the Cleaners, is full of givers who exterminate trash beasts. Rudo asks Injin if he promises to tell him how to return to the sphere if he joins the Cleaners, and he replies that he has no clue about that. Rudo lashes out at him for deceiving him, and Injin reminds that he never said that he knew how to send him back. However, he claims that his boss is really wise, and he might be able to help Rudo in his quest to return home. Rudo is pissed because now he needs to meet Injin's boss before making a decision, but then Injin asks him about the gloves. Rudo tells him that his dad gave them to him, and they are the only thing to remember him by. Injin now understands why he cares so much about the worn-out gloves, and he tells Rudo to treat them with care because they have a strong soul in them. Rudo gets emotional because everyone else always mocked him for his gloves, but then Injin gets a message and decides to meet a work friend. Rudo suddenly gets up and thanks him for everything, and in return, Injin throws a pouch of money at him, telling him to be careful how he spends it. Rudo can't believe he is giving him money on top of everything he has already done for him, but Injin tells him that it is no big deal because he got the money by selling his clothes. That is how he was able to get him treated and fed, so he doesn't even need to thank him for it. Rudo goes ballistic on hearing this, but Injin tells him that he couldn't go around the city wearing clothes from the sphere anyway. He says that he is going to meet his trainer now, and tells him to wait here patiently. Rudo is really furious at him, but then he notices a cat taking his money and running away. He gives chase immediately but can't reach the cat. Luckily, he spots a crescent moon-shaped stick on the street, and immediately takes it with him, using it to stop the cat. Just as he manages to pin the cat down, the staff's owner comes there, and he is pissed at Rudo for trying to steal his precious staff. Rudo asks him what is precious about this stupid piece of wood, and the man gets even more angry at this. He quickly takes back his stick and then pushes Rudo away, telling him that he will pay for his crimes. Before that, the man starts getting freaky with his staff, and Rudo is utterly confused by that. Just then, he sees the symbol of cleaners that was on Jin's umbrella, and realizes that the guy in front of him is also a cleaner. The guy activates the power of his staff and turns it into a weapon, attacking Rudo with it. However, he misses on purpose because Jin had already told him about Rudo. He then introduces himself as Zanka, the guy who will be in charge of his training on Jin's request. He says that he never thought he would have to teach a brat that he should not steal from others, and Rudo tells him that he was just borrowing the stick to get his money back. Zanka says that his father must have not raised him right, and Rudo gets really pissed because he can't tolerate anyone insulting Recto. However, as he thinks of Recto, he remembers that he once told him that if he wants someone to listen to him, he should take the first step back from a fight and try to understand how the other person feels. Following those words, Rudo thinks that Zanka has the right to be mad because took his treasure from him suddenly. He feels that he would be mad if someone took his gloves even by mistake and realizes that it was his fault. He apologizes to Zanka for it, and the man calms down equally fast as well. He tells Rudo that it is all good since he returned the staff, and he should have tried to react more calmly as well. Well, Rudo is completely bamboozled by the sudden change in his personality, and also because this is the first time he has managed to diffuse a stressful situation just by talking. He keeps thinking that Recto was right about more things than he thought, and then Zanka helps him back on his feet. He asks him about his vital instrument and what he can do with it. Rudo tells him that his vital instruments are probably his gloves, but he doesn't know about their ability yet. Zanka examines his gloves and remarks that they are really cool, but Rudo is still marveling at how different he seems now. He suddenly realizes that it must be because he is smiling now, and Recto always told him to smile if he wanted to make friends. Unfortunately, Rudo has never smiled before, and he would need a gym trainer to teach him how to use his face muscles properly. Even more unfortunately, he doesn't know that, and he makes his best effort to copy a human smile, but ends up giving the most horrifying expression Zanka has ever seen on a human face. He crashes out at Rudo again, asking what kind of face is he making. He asks him if he is mocking him with that face, and Rudo asks him why is he mad this time because this was the best smile he could give. Zanka tells him that even a blind guy could tell that it was not a smile, so Rudo decides to close his eyes and lips to make it appear more natural. He appears less creepy this time, but that is not enough to stop Zanka from being pissed. He thinks that Rudo is overconfident because Jin called him a genius, and now he is mocking him. He says that he can never achieve his goals if he keeps fooling around like this, but that was one line he should have not crossed. Rudo thinks about his goal to return to the sphere and change it as per Ricto's last wishes, and he tells Zanka that he is dead serious about them. He tells him to stop insulting him, and Zanka draws his weapon out again, saying that they are not going to get along well. Rudo agrees with him and pulls out a metal rod from the garbage bin nearby, awakening its power. Zanka is shocked to see him use a random object as his vital instrument, and he realizes why Jin called him a genius. However, he is still confident that if Rudo has just natural talent, he won't be able to beat a mediocre person like him who has worked hard to reach this level. Rudo doesn't even notice that the taunt was a distraction till Zanka's staff falls right in front of him, missing him by a couple of inches. He is forced to dodge and run away as Zanka goes on the offensive and quickly pins him to the ground. Zanka is satisfied with his victory, but then he notices something on his face. He wipes it off and then smells it out of curiosity, only to find that it is poop. He freaks out as he realizes that the metal rod that Rudo picked up was a part of a toilet plunger. He tries explaining what a plunger is, but Rudo is not in the mood to hear anything, and he begins swinging around the plunger that is still full of somebody's dinner. Zanka panics and does his best to dodge the flying all over the place, and eventually, he runs away from Rudo. Rudo doesn't understand why he is so scared now, but it works in his favor anyway, so he gives chase, terrorizing Zanka with the plunger. After a while of running down different alleys like old Tom and Jerry cartoons, Zanka escapes to the main street with Rudo close behind him. Suddenly, a cat trips Zanka, and he loses his balance, giving Rudo the chance to close the gap. He jumps up high, swinging the plunger with full strength at the petrified Zanka. He gets hit by a barrage of flying poop that knocks him out cold, and after a while, Jin arrives there to check up on them. He asks Rudo if he met his new teacher already, and he just points towards Zanka, who is lying on top of a garbage pile and spazzing out like crazy. Jin helps him get clean and gives him a ride, but he can't stop laughing about how Zanka got done in by poop. Rudo is also traumatized on learning the truth about the weapon he was swinging around on the streets, and then Jin tells him that Zanka is a spoiled kid, and he never expected someone to deal with him like this. Rudo can only stare at the mortified Zanka when he notices a pair of boots in the back seat of the car. Jin then tells Rudo that their first may have not been the best, but Zanka is going to be his teacher from now on. He praises him, saying that he is the most skilled trainer when it comes to handling vital instruments. Apparently, Zenka values Injin's words a lot, and he starts giggling on hearing that. Just then, Injin calls out to the woman named Rio in the back of the car, asking when did she come here. She wakes up from her beauty nap and replies that she was curious about the new guy. Rudo can only stare at him because she is quite pretty, and then Rio suddenly starts playing with his hair because they are quite unique, making him wonder if he accidentally came to heaven. While he is lost in his thoughts, Injin drives his car out of the city, leading them to the cleaners' headquarters situated in the middle of the wilderness. Injin drives past some destroyed cities and reaches a fortified tunnel passing through a huge rock wall. As they come out on the other side, everyone gets down from the car and Injin welcomes Rudo to the headquarters of the cleaners. Rudo is still in shock from Rio playing with his hair, and as he starts walking towards the building, a couple of flies start revolving around him. Inside the building, a tanned mommy receptionist is calmly reading a Playboy magazine, and Injin introduces her as Semu to Rudo. He says that Semu takes a look at everyone who joins them, but just as he is about to reveal her ability, she thrusts her fork at Rudo, killing both the flies in one hit. Rudo is dumbfounded at this, and then Semu welcomes him, saying that Injin told her everything about him, but she has to take a look at him personally to assess his potential. As she begins to focus on her glasses, Injin explains that they are her vital instruments that boost her vision, and if she focuses, she can see what a person is made of. This is news to Rudo, but he doesn't have much time to think about it as Semu awakens the power of her glasses and looks into his potential. She is shocked by what she sees and quickly turns off her ability. When Injin asks her what she saw, she tells him that Rudo is already athletic, so he doesn't need training in that matter, and he also has a good relationship with his vital instrument, though he needs some training to use it properly. Injin feels that there is more, and Semu says that Rudo has got poop on the back of his neck. He starts laughing on hearing this, and then decides to take Rudo to meet the boss, but he glances at Semu while going because he knows she is hiding something. On the way, Injin tells Rudo that there are about 100 cleaners in total, including combatants, guards, and supports. However, they are always scattered around because of their missions, so most of them are not at the headquarters. He tells Rudo that he should meet some of them and it won't take long, but just as he opens the door to the living room, he finds a bunch of cleaners there and immediately closes the door because they can always do the introductions later. They soon reach the boss's room, but before entering it, Injin tells Rudo to not start the conversation by asking how to get back to the sphere. He tells him that he needs to offer something in return for that information, and he should start by promising to work as a cleaner. He also tells him not to ask about the boss's vital instrument because no one knows what it is or what its power is. Rudo is now curious about the boss, but he finds the room empty. Just then, Semu arrives there and tells them that the boss is out on a mission and won't be returning for a few days. Rudo is confused by this, but Injin knows that is normal, and he tells him that he needs to wait a few days to meet the boss. Rudo is pissed at this and asks what is he supposed to do in the meantime, when Rio suddenly pops up there and tells him to come watch her work. She says that he can't become a cleaner until he gets approved by the boss, so the best he can do is tag along with her as a trainee, and that also works for her because she wants to know more about him. Rudo's brain stops working because he has never had this type of female attention in his life before, so he quietly follows her. They go to the strategy room where Semu explains that a small town situated near a polluted zone has asked for help because small trash beasts have been found nearby. Rudo is curious about the polluted zones and Semu learns that Injin didn't even explain the basics to him properly. She tells Rudo that the ground is divided into safe zones that support human life and the garbage-filled polluted zones where trash beasts live. The area Rudo landed was a no man's land, which is an exceptionally dangerous polluted zone, and most people would die the moment they step foot there. She then gives Rudo a mask, telling him to wear it at all times when he goes to the polluted zones, because without the mask, he could die because of the poisonous gases in less than 15 minutes. Later, Rudo joins Rio and her team on the mission, and she tells him to stay close to her at all times so he can learn the most. He still feels uneasy about that, but then he starts wondering how long was he in the no man's zone and how much poison did he breathe in. His attention then goes to the garbage dump in front of them, and he wonders if the people in the sphere know that there are humans living at the bottom of the pit. However, neither of that matters, because the most important thing for Rudo is the garbage heap itself. To him, it is not just a garbage heap, but a treasure trove where he can find usable things and repair them without anyone scolding him for that. He then catches up with Rio and asks her who are the other guys with her. She replies that they are supporters, and though they don't have special powers like the combatants, they are really helpful in the missions. One of the supporters offers Rudo his hand for a handshake, and as he nervously takes it, the supporter squishes it with his full strength. Rio laughs at Rudo wriggles in pain, telling him that this guy has incredible grip strength, and he can tear through a trash beast's outer shell with his bare hands. Rudo doesn't think he can handle this psycho bitch any longer, when one of the support alerts everyone that the trash beasts are coming. Rudo decides to watch it closely to learn as much as he can. Soon, a bunch of small goat-like trash beasts come out of the creepy trash forest, and Rudo panics, asking Rio how are they supposed to deal with these many enemies. She tells him to chill because they are just weak and slow trash beasts who can't even get past the wooden fence. Her words are proven true as the goat trash beasts attack the fence and fail to do any damage, but then suddenly, the second wave arrives there, and it has bigger and more ferocious trash beasts. They begin pushing the fence and breaking it, and Rudo panics, asking Rio what should they do now. She again tells Rudo that these beasts are just a little bit stronger than previous ones, and they are still perfectly fine for training a newbie. She says that they should just finish cleaning quickly and then return to the base to throw a party to welcome Rudo to the surface. He can't believe that she can be so laid back when she is constantly risking her life fighting the monsters, and Rio tells him that if he wants to survive on the ground, he needs to have a positive outlook towards the world. Rudo suddenly realizes that Jin is the same too, and he feels that this is what he has been lacking. He decides to be chill about everything as well when suddenly, a huge trash beast breaks through the barricading and even Rio panics on seeing it. Rudo turns to her for affirmation that everything is still good, but she tells him that this big beast is amazing because she has never seen anything so stylish. She says that it is not the best material to teach newbies, but she is going to have fun fighting it. She draws out her scissors, which are her vital instruments, and Rudo can only watch her dumbfounded. Rio then activates her scissors and throws them into the sky, where they become huge and even more sharp. She catches them with her leg and then dashes towards the horde of the monsters, chopping a bunch of them down with a kick from the scissors. Rudo can't even understand what is going on, and the support guy tells him that Rio's vital instrument is called the Ripper, and unlike normal people she wields it with her feet. Rudo realizes that everyone uses their vital instruments in their own way, when the handshake guy tells him to be more careful about his surroundings. Rudo notices it too late that a level 2 trash beast is about to attack him, but luckily, the supporter stops it with his bare hands, before crushing its head and throwing it to Rio, who simply cuts it with her scissors. She tells the supporters to send some more trash beasts towards her, and they obey, yeeting those heavy monsters at her like they don't weigh anything. By the time Rudo processes all this and learns that this is how the cleaners fight, Rio has cleaned up all the small fries and only the boss monster is left now. The supporters decide to disable any small trash beasts that can interfere in her fight and scatter, but then Rudo notices that one of the disabled beasts is awake, and it trips a supporter. It then jumps on him, and the man can't get out of its way in time. Luckily, Rudo arrives there to his rescue, and says that he will prove his worth here so that he can get the information he wants quickly. He turns the iron pipe in his hands into a weapon, and it transforms into a spiked barricade. Rudo is confused by this, but then he realizes that he forgot how to use his power because he has been doing it instinctively all this time. He doesn't understand how to deal with the situation, and the trash beast starts pushing down on him. Luckily, Rio arrives there just then and makes quick work of the trash beast, telling Rudo that he did a good thing by following his instinct to save others. The other supporter comes there too and thanks her before asking if she defeated the big one. Rio says that she cut it in 2 halves, but somehow, it is still standing. She doesn't understand how it could survive her attack when she is sure that she hit its core, but she decides to chop it up into small parts so that it becomes useless. The supporters decide to log information about a new type of trash beast that is immune to vital instruments, and they leave to warn the nearby towns about it. On the other hand, Rio dashes towards the giant beast and Rudo is left hanging in the middle because no one is telling him what to do. Meanwhile, Rio jumps at the trash beast and lands on its face before jumping over to its head and chopping off all the pipes protruding out of there. After turning the monster bald, she notices something glowing under her feet, and she realizes that it must be the core that the monster is trying to hide. However, before she can attack that, the trash beast starts moving violently enough to throw her away. It then reattaches the pipes back to its head and starts banging its jaw on the ground with great intensity. Rio still hangs on to it somehow, but the beast suddenly directs his attack towards Rudo and the supporters. Rudo just freezes as he sees the metal pipes coming towards him, but luckily, he doesn't take a direct hit. The ground under him is destroyed by the attacks, and as he falls, he begins to wonder what is he even doing. He thinks that he can't get revenge for Recto and the bastards in the sphere at this rate, and the darkness starts to consume. However, the support guy comes there to rescue him from falling into the hole, and also from giving in to despair. He carries Rudo on his shoulder, telling him that if he has a goal, he should not freeze and rather rush towards it while he can. He tells him to learn from the supporters who don't have any power, but they still keep doing their job. Just then, Rudo notices Rio chopping up the monster again, and judging by its screams, she realizes that she found its weak spot. She jumps high up and then drops down towards its head with great speed, piercing it with her scissor and tearing out its core. As she hits the ground and destroys the core, the monster suddenly turns to ash. The supporter immediately runs over to her, asking how did she defeat the trash beast, and she says that she stabbed something other than its core and it died. She holds a cardboard cutter in her hands, saying this was the thing powering the trash beast, and the support guy can't believe it because he realizes that the cutter is actually a vital instrument and it makes no sense at all for a trash beast to have one. On the other hand, the leader of the bandits who were planning to sell Rudo suddenly wakes up in a dimly lit room. He wonders where is he, when suddenly, the guy sitting on the sofa in front of him asks him the location of the kid from the sphere he mentioned in his sleep. Back in the cleaner's headquarters, Rio throws a party welcome for Rudo and soon, Zanka arrives there as well, still drowsy from his long afternoon nap. He asks Rio what is going on, and she tells him that they are throwing a party to welcome Rudo to the ground, but he is sitting quietly with his head down in a corner. Zanka asks why that cheeky bastard is looking so depressed, and Rio says that ever since his vital instrument bailed on him mid-fight, he has been gloomy and sad. Zanka thinks that's sad, but he moves on to the news about Rio facing a strange trash beast. She affirms, telling him that instead of having a core made of anima, the trash beast had a vital instrument as its core, and nothing could have prepared them for such a discovery. Rio says that since she couldn't do anything about it anyway, she decided to leave it to people above her pay grade and came back to throw a party instead. Meanwhile, Rudo is still sulking when the leader of the support team arrives there to talk with him. He introduces himself as Gris, and then tells Rudo that he did great yesterday. Rudo thinks that he did nothing at all, but Gris reminds him that he protected another supporter from a trash beast. Rudo says that even though he managed that, he couldn't use his power properly after that, and needed to be rescued by Gris and Rio. He feels frustrated because even on the sphere, he used to lose control all the time, and Ricto had to cover his ass later. Rudo feels that he is a total failure who can never live up to anyone's expectations, but then Gris suddenly thanks him, disrupting his chain of thoughts completely. He says that most newbie cleaners think of supporters as losers without real powers, but Rudo was different. Gris then talks about Follow, the guy whom Rudo saved. He joined the cleaners to become a combatant, but since he doesn't have a vital instrument right now, he is working as a supporter while treasuring an object, hoping it can become his weapon someday. Gris tells Rudo that he shouldn't think too much about getting stronger or fulfilling the expectations of others. He asks him what is the thing that he always wanted, even before things got bad in the sphere. Rudo starts thinking deeply about it, and Gris tells him that if he can find the thing that awakened the fire within his soul in the first place, he would be able to find his way. He then pats Rudo's head, telling him to believe in himself. Rudo gets emotional at this, but just then, Injin comes there and leans on him, spoiling the emotional mood. He asks Rudo why is he not eating anything, and then Rio and Zanka also come there. Everyone tells Rudo to join the party because he is the star of tonight, and also because the food won't last long at this rate. Rudo is deeply moved on seeing that everyone cares about him, and he follows them. As they are all eating, a guy suddenly plays some music and picks up some cans of paint. He starts spraying the wall, and Injin tells him to watch the guy called Gob carefully, because he does what he wants without caring for others. While Gob draws his art piece on the wall, everyone else complains, telling him to wait till they are done eating, but as told earlier, he doesn't give a shit. Meanwhile, on the ground floor, Mommy Semiu gets back to her desk, and she can predict that a call is going to come any minute. She picks up the phone the same second it starts ringing, and receives a request. She summons Zanka and a team of supporters to fulfill that request, but Zanka asks her what is Rudo doing with the group when he has not been officially admitted to the cleaners. Semiu tells him that the request they received is relevant to Rudo. She explains that the request is from a merchant who got attacked by a trash beast as he was crossing a polluted zone. He escaped with his life, but his precious cargo was stolen, and now he wants them to defeat the trash beast and retrieve the cargo. This is the part where Rudo is needed, because the cargo is a living spherite. Everyone is shocked to hear this, and Semiu says that it is really rare to see two living spherites on the surface at the same time, which means something odd is going on, and she wants Rudo to take a loot at it himself. Rudo starts thinking about it, and Gris tells him to control his feelings before making a decision. Rudo knows that he can't use his power properly, and that can make him a burden to the team, but he still wants to see the other spherite because it may give him a hint to return to the surface. He decides to tag along, and Zanka is not really pleased by this, but Semiu knows exactly how to get him to agree to everything. She says that this quest was initially meant for Injin, but he is busy with another request at the moment, and he said that he trusts Zanka to do it. That is enough to turn on the #1 Injin fanboy, and he cheerfully leads his group through the polluted zone. On the way, Rudo asks Gris if he doesn't carry a weapon, and he replies that he has a knife, but he trusts his hands more than that. One of the supporters tells Rudo that Gris actually has a talisman he prays a lot to, and he gets embarrassed that his secret is out. Eventually, he decides to show the talisman to Rudo, saying that it is nothing special, but it gives him something to attach himself to. Just then, they notice a creepy guy standing behind them. The girl, whose pronouns are definitely they them, says that she is the merchant who hired them for this mission. Rudo suddenly starts asking her questions about the spherite, and the merchant replies that she was transporting her luggage when she accidentally ran into an unconscious spherite. She was worried about them, so she carried them away, but then the trash beast attacked them and kidnapped the spherite. Rudo confronts the merchant if she plans to sell the spherite, and she denies that allegation, telling him that she doesn't want to do that and she is just really curious about spherites. Zanka feels like this story is a pile of garbage like the one they are heading to. Trash beasts are known to attack humans on sight, and they don't go out of their way to kidnap one. He thinks that something is suspicious, but decides to deal with it when the time arrives. The merchant then leads them to the building where the trash beast ran after kidnapping the spherite. Zanka tells everyone to be on guard because the trash beast can attack them from any direction. But as they enter the building, they find it empty aside from a person at the other end. The merchant says that it is the spherite and begins pushing Rudo towards them, and the other cleaners also get pushed along. Once they reach close enough, Rudo realizes that it is not a person but a doll dressed like a spherite. But it is too late as the merchant jumps backwards, telling them to hurry up. The next moment, the ground under Rudo's feet turns into mud, and the entire group falls down to the lower floor. They wonder what just happened, and the merchant asks them if they are alright. They tell her that they are fine and ask what is this place and where is the spherite. The merchant laughs creepily and points at Rudo, saying that he is the spherite before suddenly turning into mud and melting. Just then, they hear two voices calling out to the spherite giver, and then a pair of purple lights start approaching them from the darkness. Zanka understands everything now, especially because of the purple electric lights. He knows that the people who set them up are called the Raiders, and they don't even bother to hide that they plan to steal Rudo from the cleaners. Rudo is confused about these new group of weirdos, and Gris tells him that they are bandits of this world. But what makes them dangerous is the fact that they are all givers as well. He immediately commands his team to find an escape route, while he and Folo are going to protect Rudo. He asks Zanka to handle the two raiders on his own, and though reluctant, he knows there is no other option. The supporters run in the opposite direction with that, and Gris tells Rudo to follow them. Rudo says that he could deal with a bunch of bandits himself, but Gris warns him not to underestimate the raiders, especially when they don't know about their abilities. On the other hand, Zanka taunts the raiders, saying that he always knew they would come after Rudo, but he never thought they would sniff him out so soon. He asks if they plan to sell him, because a living spherite could get them enough money to retire in luxury. The raiders laugh, saying that they don't plan to sell Rudo. Instead, they are really curious about the sphere, and talking to a spherite is the best source of knowledge. They want to know a lot of things, especially how he crossed the barrier without dying. Zanka is also curious about the barrier thing now, but he decides to deal with the raiders quickly. He says that since they set up this whole thing, he doesn't need to worry about a trash beast. The female raider replies that he still has to worry about the mud dolls she can create at will, and Zanka says that he can deal with weak opponents like these with his eyes closed. He suddenly activates his staff and begins destroying the mud dolls, but the male raider hides among the dummies and attacks him from behind. Zanka is barely able to react to his attack in time and gets slammed into a pillar. The man once again retreats inside a mud doll, and the female raider tells Zanka that because cleaners only fight with trash beasts, they have no idea how to deal with humans. She tells him that this will be the last game of Find the Real One he will ever play in his life, and he gets ready to fight with everything he has. He keeps taking down the mud dolls, but the male raider is able to land consequent hits on his back. Zanka is cornered now, and as he tries to dash towards the female raider to defeat her, his feet slip in the mud puddle she had created in advance. She tells him that he is the only combatant in the group who can fight against her, and once he is down, the rest of the group will be defenseless. She says that he will be defeated soon, but then Zanka suddenly yells at her, telling her to start a podcast if she wants to yap so much. He says that earlier, he thought she was controlling the mud puppets using her shovel, and the guy was using his vital instrument to deal damage. However, after watching the battle for a bit, he has realized that his first assumption was wrong. He says that the man is just punching him, and his vital instrument seems to be his snowshoes that let him walk easily on stable ground. He says that now it makes sense why he can move so easily even though the ground is covered with mud, and he taunts the two raiders, calling them a match made in heaven. This suddenly triggers the woman, and she tells him to shut up, which obviously, he does not. He says that he might not have experience of fighting people, but he knows his vital instrument much better than them. He says that is why he can do things they cannot, and the girl suddenly attacks him. Zanka hits his staff hard on the ground, letting a sonic wave run through the entire place. He can feel the changes in the vibrations as the sound wave passes through the mud dolls, and when it hits the one where the male raider is hiding, he immediately spots him. He then charges at full speed towards him, knocking him out with one hit before hitting the female raider too. As she loses consciousness, her mud dolls fall apart instantly, and Zanka says that they were just a bunch of noobs. However, the leader of the raiders suddenly appears behind him, saying that he should fight someone stronger if he is not satisfied. On the other hand, Rudo and others are still running as they try to find the exit. Rudo grows concerned because he can no longer hear the sounds of a fight, when he suddenly bumps into Gris, who has found an exit. He sends some of the supporters upstairs so that they can contact the headquarters and call for support. After that, he decides to return and check up on Zanka, when suddenly, he hears someone running towards them. Gris thinks that it is Zanka who finished his fight, but to his surprise, the leader of the raiders comes there. Everyone is confused, and then the raider begins staring at Rudo and matching his features with the description he got from the bandit that he kidnapped earlier. He suddenly jumps to the wall behind Rudo and clings to it like Spider-Man, saying that he has finally found the giver from the sphere. Just as Gris and others realize that the man in front of them is a raider, he crushes the wall with his claws, blocking the exit. The raider starts aura farming, and Gris tells him that if he harms Rudo, he will become an enemy of all the cleaners. He then asks him about Zanka, but the raider starts talking about how he got late in reaching here because he has got a terrible sense of direction. By the time he got here, the other guys were defeated, and he didn't like that because that was a waste of everyone's time. He then walks towards Rudo, completely ignoring Gris and his questions about Zanka. He tells Rudo that there is someone who really wants to talk to him, so he should come with the raiders for now. Rudo is on high alert when the raider suddenly grabs his mask and pulls it away, telling him that he doesn't need it because there are no trash beasts around. Rudo asks him what happened to the cleaner with the staff, and the raider says that he had a bad attitude, so he dealt with him. However, since he was strong, he didn't kill him and just knocked him out, but he might not enjoy the poison that much. The raider then uses his ability to awaken the power of his rings, turning them into metallic claws. He tells Rudo to come with him peacefully and no one will get hurt, but just then, Gris and Folo attack him. The raider easily dodges their attack and then does a handstand kick to send them flying away. He senses that Folo has the potential to become a giver, but Gris doesn't have anything like that, so he is not needed. Gris, however, gets up and tells the raider that he will protect his team at all costs, no matter who he has to fight. The raider realizes that he is a supporter and tells him that weaklings like him have no worth and they can't protect anything. Rudo gets worried about Gris and tells him to fall back because the fight will be too dangerous for him, but Gris doesn't reply. Instead, it is the raider who tells Rudo that his weak and useless friend is already dead. His claws have pierced Gris's heart, and he pushes them even deeper until they come out of the other hand. Rudo can only stare at the sight in horror as Gris's lucky charm goes flying, and his mind goes completely blank. The scene feels awfully similar to Ricto's death to him, and Rudo instinctively reaches for the pendant that triggers the memories of his childhood. One day, Recto found him banging his head on the wall, and he immediately came to stop him. He asked Rudo what the hell he was doing, and he blankly replied that Recto had told him to stop hurting others, but he had never said a thing about not hurting himself. Recto grew even more concerned at this because he thought that Rudo had become calmer after the pain in his hands was subdued. He asked him the reason behind his agitation and Rudo replied that there was none. He only had an unexplainable anger inside him whose cause he did not know, but Recto knew what was up. He realized that Rudo felt that his parents abandoned him, which created a feeling of worthlessness in his heart, and that gave birth to this anger. Recto told him that he needs a purpose in life to get over that feeling, or at least things that he likes. So he patched Rudo up and took him to experience different things, from books to games to cooking, but nothing really caught his attention that much. However, just as Recto was about to call it a day, Rudo saw a man throwing out garbage, and his curiosity woke up. He opened the gate that led to the main city and took out a mask from the garbage bag. Recto followed him out of concern, but then Rudo suddenly started crying because he could relate to the garbage. Recto asked him how does he feel right now, and Rudo told him that this mask is just a little broken and it should not be thrown out. He cried that it was unfair to throw it away when it still had so much life, and he wanted to fix it. Recto realized that this was more than the projection of Rudo's issues, and he could truly see the worth of the things that others threw away. Back to the present, the pendant turns into a vital instrument in Rudo's hands, and the raider is shocked by that. Gris, who is somehow still alive, realizes the truth about Rudo's powers now. He says that Rudo doesn't turn things into vital instruments, but he brings out their unused potential to life. With that, Rudo awakens the potential of the pendant, turning it into a creepy sentient weapon. The raider is truly amazed by that, and he starts drooling as he asks Rudo what does his vital instrument do. On the other hand, Folo puts Gris in a more comfortable position, but he is still in a very critical state. Rudo thanks Gris for showing him the path out of his depression, and tells him that without his help, he would still be stuck. However, now he knows what he should do, and he will start by kicking the raider's ass and proving that he was wrong about everything he just said. The raider likes his attitude and finally introduces himself as Jabber, saying that he likes nothing more than determined fighters and strong givers. He then attacks Rudo, and the two of them engage in a serious battle. On the other hand, Gris is still bleeding out and Folo is worried about him. However, Gris assures him that he will be alright. He then starts thinking about Rudo and says that he could not use his powers properly the last time because there were a lot of emotions that were clouding his true purpose. But this time, they don't have to worry about that. Meanwhile, Rudo is completely on the defensive, forcing Jabber to attack him and retreat when he can't find any opening. He tries to taunt Rudo into attacking him, but he simply asks him to attack him if he dares. Jabber tells him to be a bit more cheerful and enjoy the fight as he charges at him again, but Rudo just dodges his attack. Jabber attacks him again, and this time too, Rudo just dodges effortlessly. Jabber soon realizes that his attacks can't even hit Rudo, who explains that it is because of Gris's pendant. Gris prayed to the talisman that everyone should return safe from their missions, and that means it is a vital instrument that focuses on defense. Jabber gets that it increases the guaranteed dodge rate, but he tells Rudo that he can't fight back with this vital instrument. Rudo tells him that there is no need for that, confusing the raider. He explains that he has dodged everything without even moving from his place, and it is Jabber who keeps on moving around, so he can predict where he is going to move next. Jabber doesn't really care about his yapping, and he lunges at Rudo again. However, this time, Rudo uses another ability of his weapon that changes Jabber's trajectory by a little bit, but that is enough to completely throw him out of the loop. Rudo says that he can't use the talisman to attack, but he can use his fists, and then rocks Jabber's world with a strong punch to his face. Jabber turns out to be a pain enjoyer, and he is glad that Rudo finally attacked him. He complains that it is unfair that the game is rigged against him, but Rudo doesn't feel any guilt in using his vital instrument to pummel him after disturbing his balance. Jabber decides to change his strategy and attacks Rudo from behind, but the talisman still breaks his momentum and gives Rudo the chance to land a devastating blow to his gut. Jabber changes his fight pattern once again after that, damaging the surroundings to create a dust cloud that blocks Rudo's vision instead. Rudo is on high alert now, and then suddenly, a stone brick comes flying at him. He dodges it thanks to the talisman's power, but then Jabber cuts a pillar and sends more bricks towards him. Rudo dodges all of them, and just then, Jabber attacks him from his blind spot. Luckily, the talisman is ready for that, and it disturbs his movement again, letting Rudo smash him to the ground. Jabber gets back and decides to unleash his full speed, but even that is not enough to beat Rudo, who has unlocked Ultra Instinct thanks to the talisman, and he can beat Jabber whenever he gets close to him. He completely beats the out of him and forces him to use a wall to support his body, but Jabber starts laughing because he has not received this high-quality beating in a long time. He then tells Rudo that it is a good thing that he got to enjoy attacking him, because he will not be able to do it any longer. By now, Jabber has figured out that the talisman detects any attacks with hostile intent and moves them out of Rudo's way, keeping him safe. But when he sent the rubble towards him through the smoke, he found that the talisman doesn't react to that at all. Rudo doesn't get why is he yapping about that all of a sudden, and then Jabber tells him that his right claw has a powerful neurotoxin. He suddenly stabs himself with his claw and Rudo gets even more confused about his motives. Jabber tells him that he will now lose consciousness and then rampage randomly, and he is sure that Rudo's talisman won't count that as hostile intent. He asks him to dodge that and then gradually falls asleep. Rudo can only watch him with disgust and shock, but then Jabber suddenly wakes up, and true to his words, he starts attacking indiscriminately. Jabber goes into berserk mode as he gets up while still being unconscious and lets out an eardrum-shattering howl. Rudo can only watch him in shock as Jabber suddenly dashes towards him while spinning rapidly and destroying everything in his path. Rudo somehow dodges the attack, and he can't understand how Jabber can be so strong even in this state. Suddenly, he notices that Folo and Gris are not too far away from their location, and if Jabber turns towards them, they both will die. So Rudo runs in the opposite direction to lure Jabber, and his gamble works. The berserk Jabber attacks him and Rudo tries to use the talisman's power to stop him. However, that doesn't happen as he planned, and he has to block the attack himself before throwing the berserker away with a judo move. Despite breaking the concrete floor with his head, Jabber is still as blood-crazed as before, and Rudo thinks that battlefield experience and determination can make people do the unthinkable. However, an alternative idea suddenly springs in his mind, and he thinks that Jabber might be a masochist. He remembers the time when he used to get beat up by bullies on the sphere, but he didn't fight back because Ricto told him not to. The boys asked him if he was a masochist, but he didn't know what it meant that time, so he went back home and asked Ricto about it. Now that he knows that masochists are psychos who get off on pain, he thinks that if Jabber really is one of them, he doesn't know how to stop him. Anyway, Jabber charges at him with mindless fury and Rudo can only try to dodge his attacks. He keeps running backwards as he attempts to block and evade the attacks, but Jabber is too strong for him. He manages to get past his defenses, but just as his claws are about to slash him, Zanka's staff comes flying there and pins him to the ground. Rudo recognizes the staff, and just then, Zanka comes there, struggling to stand upright, but determined to get even with the bastard who left their fight without even defeating him fully. Rudo asks him if he is even in the condition to fight, but Zanka tells him not to underestimate him. He then notices the vital instrument that Rudo is using and remarks that he finally seems to have gotten the hang of it. Rudo replies that it is not helping at all right because it can't block Jabber's attacks in his mindless state. Zanka understands the vital instrument reacts only to hostile intent, and Rudo is surprised that he already figured it out. Zanka tells him that while he was struggling to come here, he saw him fight from a distance and decided to figure out his fighting style because that would help in teaching him later. Zanka says that since Rudo can't fight with his vital instrument, and he can't move so well because of the poison, they don't have a way to defeat Jabber. However, he has an idea, and he asks Rudo to let him attack him just once. Rudo is shocked at that suggestion, but Zanka explains that since he can't move well, Rudo's vital instrument might detect his hostile intent and move him to the place where he wants to be. That way, he can reach Jabber and defeat him because Rudo doesn't have the option to attack him anyway. Rudo asks what happens if his vital instrument isn't triggered, and Zanka tells him to man up and take the hit in that case. Just then, Jabber wakes up and both of them get ready to face him. He charges at them, slashing the pillar they were standing near, but both of them make it out safely. Zanka tells Rudo to let the claws even graze him because that will quickly paralyze him. He is pissed at that and decides to attack Rudo to vent out his frustration. Luckily, the talisman works exactly like he thought, and it moves him straight towards Jabber, letting him hit the bastard away. Zanka is impressed by this, but Rudo is furious at him. Since the talisman deflected the attack, it means Zanka attacked him with hostile intent, but he claims that it was just a little test. He then walks back to Rudo, saying that they can work with this team. He positions himself to strike him again, and at the same time, Jabber gets back up. He dashes towards them, and then Zanka attacks Rudo, whose ability hurls him ahead instead. He once again gets close to Jabber and lands a devastating hit. Zanka is surprised that the talisman can be controlled so well by Rudo, and he can send him considerably far. He then attacks him again, and Rudo sends him towards Jabber one more time. Thanks to Rudo's control, Zanka hits him with a lethal combo that knocks him back to his senses. As Jabber sees Zanka in front of him, he gets a little excited, but the next thing he feels is Zanka's staff landing on his head, knocking him out for good this time. As Zanka lands on his feet after that, he stumbles to the ground. He thinks that they have won the fight, and Rudo also relaxes a bit, causing the talisman to deactivate. It suddenly turns to dust and crumbles like Thanos just snapped it out of existence, and Rudo panics. He tries to save the talisman since it belongs to Gris, but he can't do anything except watching it fly away. He starts having a panic attack, and Zanka wonders if the talisman got destroyed because of Rudo's ability or if there is something else at play here. Rudo, however, blames himself, and he suddenly has a mental breakdown that turns physical as he falls to the ground, writhing like a fish taken out of water. Zanka sees the claw marks on his back and realizes that he got struck by Jabber without either of them knowing. Just then, he notices Jabber poking himself with his left claw, and he suddenly stands back up, completely fresh. He looks around and says that he must have done a great job while he was out cold, and then heads towards Rudo. Zanka asks him to stop, asking how the hell can he move despite taking so much damage, and Jabber stops to monologue about his abilities. He says that his left claw has a powerful painkiller that takes away his pain, and he can function normally again. He then says that his right claw's poison will probably work on Zanka for 30 minutes, so he decides to give him another dose to make sure he doesn't get in his way. Zanka is helpless as Jabber stabs him, leaving him struggling on the ground. He then heads over to Rudo, who is still spasming, and picks him up to take him to their base. Zanka can't even yell at him to stop this time, and he can only watch Rudo being taken away silently. Meanwhile, Jabber is glad that he completed his mission, and he doesn't even care about his two teammates that are lying knocked out in the building. Rudo is still conscious even though he can't move, and he blames himself for putting everyone's life in danger. Just then, Jabber leaps out of the hole in the floor that his teammate made, but instead of being inside a building, he finds that he is outside. He thinks that it shouldn't be possible because he clearly remembered the map. But just then, he sees Rio there, waiting for him. Injin is with her too, and Jabber finds that out when he gets hit in the guts with his umbrella and hits a wall with tremendous force. He somehow stays awake despite that, and notices that Injin has other scary-looking cleaners with him. Turns out, the supporters who escaped earlier called for backup, and Injin and others were close enough to respond in time. One supporter is worried that Gris and others might be dead, but Injin assures her that they are strong and won't die so easily. He asks her to take a team and rescue them, and in the meantime Jabber begins screaming that they look really strong and he is in no condition to fight them. Just the thought of how helpless he is turns him on, and Injin is shocked to learn that Rudo has been fighting this freak masochist this entire time. Rio remarks that he looks better than she expected, and the other cleaners pity him, saying that he looks a lot worse than they thought. The big guy gets angry and says that it is unforgivable that someone tried to harm one of their teammates, but the other guy tells him to shut up because he is annoying. After that, Injin tells Jabber that they are going to take him into custody and interrogate him. He asks him if he really thought that he could mess with the cleaners and then crawl back to whatever hole he came from. Jabber gets even more excited on hearing this and asks if they are going to lock him away in a prison for life where he has to come up with a plan to break free by himself. He gets up, saying that he knows he is going to lose, but he has got orders to bring back Rudo, and he is not going to return to his face as a failure even if he dies in the process. He awakens his weapons again, but just as he is about to charge ahead, someone hugs him from behind and tells him to stop. Jabber recognizes the lowly as one of his teammates and tells her to leave him alone because he still has a mission to complete. She tells him that the time is up, and they can't do anything because the cleaners are here. Jabber is still adamant about finishing his mission, so the girl tells him that the boss had a very big smile on his face. Jabber suddenly stops at this, and the girl tightens her grip around him to keep him in check. Ultimately, he decides to listen to her and return home, and as he steps aside, the mystical manhole portal in the wall behind him becomes visible. Jabber tells everyone that he has to leave now, and asks them to give Rudo his regards because he must be knocked out due to his poison right now. However, Rudo is still in his senses, and he uses all his strength to get up and tell Jabber to stop because their fight is not over yet. Jabber is impressed by his tenacity, and Rudo tells him that he will pay him back for what he did to Gris and others. Jabber is happy to hear that and says that they will fight another time, but then he notices his gloves and the unique design on them. He excitedly remarks that their boss would be happy to learn that Rudo has got something from the special series too, and then enters the portal after the lowly. As soon as he puts the manhole cover on, the portal disappears and everyone is surprised. Later, Zanka and others are rescued from the building, and the poison wears off from Rudo's body too. He immediately rushes to Gris and finds that he is still alive despite severe blood loss. Rudo apologizes to him for wrecking his talisman, and Gris says that he really cared about it. Rudo is about to drown in guilt, but then Gris says that if his talisman helped him, it was really for the best. With that, the final bits of the talisman fly away too, and Rudo is not sure how he feels at the moment. Soon, everyone returns to the cleaners' headquarters and Rudo sits in silence by himself. Injin comes there and asks him why is he acting like a depressed emo brat when he should be happy because he finally learned how to use his vital instrument. Rudo suddenly snaps at him and says that he couldn't save Gris earlier, and he can't be happy about that. He says that he failed to protect Ricto in the sphere, and on the surface, he failed to protect the guy who saved his life. He feels like he is a loser no matter what he does, and Injin tells him that Gris knew what he was getting into, and he is always prepared for risks. He then asks Rudo to come with him so that they can pay their respects to Gris, who surprisingly is still alive. Rudo can't believe his eyes when he sees Gris sitting upright and thanking him for earlier, and Injin finally realizes that he was depressed because he thought Gris died. He starts ruffling Rudo's hair, and a nurse also decides to join him just for fun. Rudo gets embarrassed, but he asks Gris how can he be alive despite taking a poisonous claw straight to his heart. Gris tells him that it is all thanks to the medical team of the cleaners, and especially the young medic named Aisha, who is the only giver they have with healing power. Aisha, however, is quite shy and has self-esteem issues, so she needs regular affirmations from Gris to believe him. After that, Gris turns to Folo, who kept him alive when he was bleeding out, and Folo falls to his knees. Finally, he turns to Rudo and thanks him for stopping Jabber along with Zenka. He also tells him not to worry about the talisman because if it helped save some lives, it did its job well. Rudo believes him this time, and he tells Gris that he is really glad to see that he survived. With that, Injin says that they now have to worry about the raiders picking fights with them on top of the trash beasts, but luckily, they got some information out of them. Just then, a tall, dark-skinned cleaner comes there talking about the border that Jabber mentioned, and Rudo asks Injin who this new guy is. Injin replies that he is the boss, and Rudo freaks out because he was not mentally ready to meet him. The boss greets Rudo and introduces himself as Corvus. He says that at first, he was going to reject Rudo when he heard that he wanted to join them just to get information about reaching the sphere. However, since he has already risked his life to protect the cleaners, he is one of them now, and Corvus has no objection to accepting him as a cleaner officially. Corvus then calls Rudo to his office to get his uniform, as well as to learn more about the border. He explains that the border separates the surface from the sphere, and anyone who tries to cross it dies. However, there are exceptions to the rule. Corvus begins reciting a story about a woman who lives in a no-man's land that is closest to the border. Once upon a time, a guy got lost there and met the woman. He asked her why did she live in such a desolate place, and she replied that she was watching the people fall from above. The women told him that there were some people who come and go beyond the border without dying, and that is their only hint for now. Rudo realizes that if he finds one of the people that the woman saw cross the border, he might go back home. Corvus tells him that it will be a highly dangerous journey, but Rudo doesn't care about that because he has to return home at all costs. However, he is a bit too excited for it and immediately starts rushing to the no man's land. Folo tries to stop him, but he hasn't got enough power to stop Rudo. Luckily, Jin arrives there and gets Rudo to stop, telling him that he can't go to the no man's land with such half-assed prep. He says that it is a good thing that Rudo can use his abilities on command now, but they still don't know about his limits and weaknesses. Rudo asks him to come with him in that case, but Jin refuses because he is not crazy enough to go solo into no man's land again. Rudo knows that is cap because Jin was actually going solo when he found him. Anyway, Jin tells him that there will come a time when they will go to the dangerous territory, but right now, they should focus on training Rudo, researching about the trash beasts, and also finding more information about the raiders. Speaking of the raiders, Rudo asks Jin how thieves like them can be givers. Jin replies that being a good person and treating objects with care are not the same thing. The people who can take good care of their objects and awaken their powers become givers even if they are human scum. He adds that there are people who hate givers of all kinds, because from a normie point of view, anyone who is overly attached to just one object will look weird. After that, Jin tells Rudo to get some rest today because he has had a lot of non-stop action recently. Rudo obeys his command and tries to rest in his room, but with ADHD filling up 90% of his pea-sized brain, he can't even relax. He begins wondering if he should sneak out and go to find something valuable in the garbage, when suddenly, Rio slams open his door because she doesn't plan to let him rest. She decides to give Rudo a tour of their headquarters, and he says that this place has a lot more things than the sphere. Rio gets curious about the sphere and asks him what he did up there. Rudo tells her his usual schedule of picking garbage and getting scolded, and then Rio asks about the food in the sphere. Rudo replies that there were things like bread and soup, but when she asks him about sweets, he gets sulky because only the rich people can afford sweets. Rio tells him that they have sweets here and Rudo can't believe it until he sees them. He feels like he has found the one piece as he sees a plate full of sweets, and Jin warns him that sweets are more addictive than drugs, so he should be careful when eating them. He then explains that because of pollution on the surface, they can't grow much crops, but there is a group called Vianders that collect givers who specialize in cooking. They are the ones who make and sell these sweets, and sweets are not exactly rare on the surface because of them. Well, Rudo takes a bite with trembling hands, and the moment he tastes sweets for the first time, he feels like he has received enlightenment. He begins devouring the sweets like a madman, and Jin thinks that they have a budding sugar addict among them. Just then, a creepy dude with a pacifier in his mouth comes there and starts staring at him, and Rudo wonders if he is after the sweets as well. He doesn't want to share anything, but he still forces himself to pass a candy to the weirdo, who just snatches it out of his hand and gives him attitude. Rudo doesn't really bother that much with him and keeps eating sweets till he has a weird reaction and turns into a balloon that freaks Zanka out. Anyway, once Rudo has digested the sweets and turned to normal, it is time for his training to begin, but he can't draw out the power of the knife he is holding. Rio and Jin laugh at him, asking if he forgot how to access his power after being high on sweets, but Zanka is thinking rationally instead. He feels that since Rudo likes repairing broken items, he needs some kind of broken object to trigger their power. He immediately gathers some stuff from the local garbage patch and asks Rudo if something here feels right to him. Rudo immediately picks up a broken triangle thing and uses his power to turn it into a weapon of some sort. Everyone is impressed with Zanka's deduction, and he is flattered when Jin praises him. He then asks Rudo to try awakening other objects at the same time, and he manages to turn 2 more items into weapons. However, he suddenly has an intense nosebleed and collapses, and Jin remarks that he saw it on the day they first met. He says that maybe the quality of his gloves is so intense that his body can't keep up. Rudo asks him what is quality, and Jin explains that the longer an object is cared for, the stronger it becomes and the higher its quality. High-quality objects are more powerful, but they are also more draining. Zanka agrees, and he thinks that if Rudo has cared for his gloves since he was a kid, they are bound to be high quality. However, he also wonders if it has something to do with the series that Jabber mentioned. Meanwhile, Rudo wonders why the weapons he activates turn into dust at the end. He says that the objects right now are completely fine, and wonders if there is a time limit. However, Rio has another theory. She suggests that the objects might vanish because they have fulfilled their purpose. She says that Rudo's power is to repair and bring out the full potential of things other people have tossed aside. By doing that, he gives the objects a chance to fulfill their purpose, and once they are done, they vanish. Zanka also agrees with the idea, saying that Griss's talisman vanished only after the battle ended and Rudo felt safe. Jin also likes this theory, and he tells Rudo that he did not destroy the talisman or any other items that he used. Instead, he wants Rudo to think of it as giving the discarded and broken objects one last chance to go out in a blaze of glory. Rudo finally realizes that his power is not about breaking things, but about giving them their chance to shine. Just then, Rio asks him about the series stuff that Jabber mentioned, and Rudo begins to wonder if there are more items like his gloves. Rio then asks him if his gloves have a name, and he gets confused on hearing the question. Rio tells him that when you love something you give it a name. Her scissors are called the Ripper, Injin's umbrella is called Umbreaker, and Zanka calls his staff the Lovely Assistaff. Rudo is surprised to hear all this, and then Injin tells him to come up with a good name for his gloves soon. Later that night, Rudo is washing his gloves, and when he comes out of the washroom, he is shocked to see Rio lying on his bed. Rudo's flabber is gasted by this, and he asks her what is she doing here. Rio replies that her room is just upstairs, so she could hear him groaning and moaning. She got worried about him and used the windows to enter his room. Rudo understands the situation now, and Rio asks if he was in pain because of the wounds on his hands that look really terrible. He immediately hides his hands from her and tells her that they hurt a lot less when he wears his gloves, but he has got to wash them every once in a while. Rio asks him what are the wounds from because they look even worse than a burn. Rudo says that she needs to ask his asshole parents about that, and Rio understands what he means. She says that parents give them a lot of things, with trauma being the topmost thing on the list. The next day, Injin takes Rudo to see the boss, who says that since there is some time to get his full face ready, Injin should finish the rest of the prep. Rudo is confused by this, and Injin tells him that full face refers to the mask that all cleaners are ordered to wear when they enter no man's land. He takes out his mask to show to Rudo and then says that they have an artist among them who makes these masks. But he is a weirdo with extreme ADHD, so he can't work if anyone even mentions the deadline before him. Right now, he is working on Rudo's mask, and it seems he will take time. Corvus says that in the meantime, they will finish up the prep by casting a spell on Rudo. This confuses him even further, so the receptionist mommy explains that there are a lot of uncertainties in the garbage zones, and to make sure the cleaners are lucky enough to avoid them, they have another artist draw a protective spell on them. The boss has given him to paint anything he wants, so he sometimes paints around the headquarters, but lately, he seems to be busy in another city. Injin says that he is going to the canvas town to find the painter, and he is taking an entire team with him. The team includes Zanka and Rio, as well as Gris and Folo along with some people from Injin's crew. He introduces them all one by one to Rudo, saying that usually they take 5 supporters with them. But since no man's land is more dangerous, they are going to take only 3 elite supporters and increase the number of givers instead. Just then, the big guy named Delman comes there and Rudo is intimidated by his size. Delman suddenly starts screaming in Rudo's face, saying that he has heard his life story, and he feels pissed that the people in the sphere discriminate between humans. He claims to like passionate people like him and tries to recruit him into his group. But just then, his partner Tamsi comes there and stops him. He says that since Injin has already recruited Rudo into his faction, they shouldn't try to steal him. Just then, Injin joins the fray and asks Delman to give one of his trademark passionate speeches. As Delman grits his teeth, Zanka plugs his ears right in time before the giant begins a speech about how they will never give up despite the challenges they face. His passion is contagious, and after being confused for a minute, even Rudo joins the other screaming people. However, once they get in the car to reach Canvas Town, everyone becomes silent. Soon, their destination comes into view, and Rudo is mesmerized to see it because it looks like an art project even from a distance. Once they reach the city gate, Rudo notices that all the walls have graffiti over them, but he is more curious about the dome-like structure. Tamsi tells him that most cities have some sort of dome to protect them from the litter that falls from the space, because that is enough to kill people. Rudo feels bad about that, but Tamsi tells him not to feel guilty because it is the fault of the people who throw the garbage. At the same time, 2 men at the gate are trying to enter the city, but they find that they can't enter the gate even though it is wide open. They keep hitting an invisible wall, but then Injin and his group pass through the gate normally. The 2 guys are surprised by this, as is Rudo, but Injin tells him to just walk through the gate because if he doesn't have any evil intentions in his mind, the gate won't stop him. Rudo immediately enters the gate, realizing that the 2 guys who are getting stuck are some kind of thugs. Anyway, once they enter the city, Rudo finds even more graffiti and empty paint cans spread everywhere. Injin tells him that a lot of people on the ground like to paint, but most people don't respect their art. There are rumors that Canvas Town was created so that artists could paint anywhere they wanted. Rudo asks if they are here to look at these paintings, and Injin tells him that they are here to find the giver who can cast protective spells on anything using his art. Rudo is confused by that, so Injin gives him an example. He says that if the giver wants to protect a wall from one attack, he can channel his emotions into his vital instrument and then convert them into magic by drawing on the wall. He then says that the two people outside couldn't enter the city because the giver painted a spell that forbids people who plan nasty things from entering the city. Rudo says that his powers seem really crazy, and Injin remarks that his vital instrument is quite rare. He tries to explain that the giver actually inherited the vital instrument from someone when a running kid bumps into him and falls on the ground. He tries to help the kid up, but he starts crying and then runs away. Injin is left stunned by this, and Rio starts teasing him about making the kid cry. Just then, the city mayor also arrives there, and Injin is glad to see him. He says that they are here to see their friend Gob because they have a job for him. He asks where he is working right now, but the mayor tells him with a heavy heart that Gob died this morning. The mayor then takes everyone to Gob's house, saying that he died of body pollution. He was not satisfied with painting in the city, and he went to the polluted zones to paint as well. The mayor is sure that Gob often forgot his mask when he was painting, and as a result, the deadly air destroyed his body from the inside. Injin is devastated by this news, and as he pays his respect to his dead friend, Rudo remembers that he once saw Gob painting a wall in the headquarters. Injin talked very highly about him back then, saying that he was a guy who is never distracted from what he wants to do. Rudo is rattled as he tries to process Gob's death, but Tamsi asks him not to be too shaken up because a lot of people on the surface die because of body pollution. The mayor says that Gob had already decided his successor before dying, and it is the kid named Rimlin that Injin bumped into earlier. He talks about how the spellcasters are chosen by the former wielder of the brush, and they immediately turn into givers on receiving the brush. However, he feels that the responsibility is too much for the young Rimlin, because the spellcaster is like the representative of their city. Rudo is shocked on learning this, but Folo and Tamsi tell him that passing down a vital instrument is very rare, but it makes sense since the power of the vital instrument has already been awakened, and the one to receive it just needs the potential to be a giver. The mayor then says that Rimlin and Gob were like siblings, so they will need to give the kids some time to recover from the loss. He tells Injin that he and his cleaner friends will be delayed because of that, but Injin tells him that they don't need to rush anything in such a delicate situation. The mayor suddenly starts crying, saying that Gob painted with too much joy in his heart, and he can't believe he is dead. Injin understands his feelings very well because he used to be in awe whenever he saw Gob painting with a big smile on his face. He decides that they will return later when things are calmer here, but before going, he asks Rimlin to take care of herself. However, she suddenly gets up, declaring that the time for being gloomy is over. That startles everyone, and Rimlin immediately snatches the paintbrush from the mayor's brush and runs outside. Everyone follows her, and they find her on a rooftop with cans of paint. She says that even though she is sad that Gob is dead, she knows that he can't enjoy his afterlife if he sees everyone crying after him. That is why she wants to send him off in the way he would like best, and that is by celebrating life and art. She immediately activates the brush, enlarging it in size, and draws a magic circle on the ground that mutates the paint cans into firework launchers. As the paint cans shoot out colorful fireworks in the sky, everyone in the city gets inspired and they rush to make art. Rimlin is happy to see that because that is what Gob would have wanted, and Rudo watches her filled with awe. Soon after that, Rimlin paints her latest artwork on Rudo's face, and she is really proud of it. She has done clown makeup on him, and Rudo is not really happy about it, but Rimlin can't stop laughing as she looks at his face. While Rudo lashes out at her, Injin talks with the mayor, saying that now they know the exact criteria the spellcasters used to choose their successor. The mayor affirms, saying that Rimlin is as whimsy as Gob was. Injin asks him how many spellcasters have been there in total, and the mayor replies that Rimlin is probably the 6th one, because spellcasters leave their history behind only through their art. Meanwhile, Rimlin introduces herself to Rudo and asks what does he want her to draw and where. She begins talking about her power and how it doesn't work well if she doesn't get permission to draw at a place. Injin recalls that it was also the case with Gob, and he asks the mayor if all the spellcasters inherit the same power. The mayor replies that they get similar powers, but sometimes there are differences. Injin thinks that the vital instrument gives them the same powers, and the difference arises because of the difference in the personality of the spellcaster, but Rimlin tells him that he is wrong. She believes that their powers turn out to be similar because they are all a bunch of whackjobs who like to play on the battlefield. She says that they draw balloons and flowers in tense battle scenes because they like the message of freedom and power in their artwork. She believes that this is the deciding factor whenever a spellcaster chooses their successor, but Injin doesn't get most of what she said. He concludes that spellcasters have the same power because they think in the same manner, but Rimlin disagrees with that too. She says that they have different ways of thinking, and they draw different things as well, which further confuses Injin. He tries to understand what exactly Rimlin wants to say, but the mayor stops him, telling him that he will only lose his mind if he tries to debate with an artist or a flat earther. Anyway, Rudo tells Rimlin that he wants her to draw something on his back that protects him from one serious hit. Rimlin gets ready for the job and immediately turns her brush into a tattoo gun to make her artwork permanent. The mayor and Injin are shocked by this because initially they thought that Rumlin just found a tattoo gun lying around somewhere, but it turns out that she can turn the brush into any tool that fulfills her needs at the moment. In the end, they stop her from tattooing the spell on Rudo's body, but Rumlin says that if she just draws with water-based paint, it will wash off after the first time Rudo showers. However, she quickly comes up with another idea that is as mischievous as a tattoo and asks for Rudo's permission to cast a spell on his body without telling him what tool she will use. Anyway, Rumlin draws a spell not only on Rudo but on everyone else in the group, and with that, they decide to head back to their mission. Rumlin is really exhausted after casting spells on 9 people at once, but she still comes along with them to the gate. At the gate, Injin and others spot the 2 losers from earlier, and they get pissed when they see the brush in Rumlin's hand. They ask the mayor how could he let a brat like her inherit the position of the spellcaster, and say that they were more suited to become the next spellcaster instead. One of them boasts about how he won a famous art competition to prove his worth, and he can become a better spellcaster than some snot-nosed kid. The mayor suddenly starts shouting at them and immediately shuts them up. He tells them that posers like them only care about fame and they don't even understand what it means to be a spellcaster. He tells them to run away immediately because no one in Canvas City wants to see their ugly faces. The thugs quickly accept defeat in front of the angry mayor and head back dejected. Injin remarks that the mayor is as scary as ever when he is angry and tells him to stay away from the gate because that is not good for his blood pressure. With that, everyone gets in the car, and Rudo thanks Rumlin for drawing on him. She laughs smugly and tells him that she will come to play around in the headquarters soon too. Injin drives them away with that, and Rudo figures out that they are going back to the HQ. Injin affirms, but he tells Rudo that before they reach their base to get his face mask, he is in for a treat. Rudo doesn't get what he is talking about until he is in a warehouse full of wonderful trash. He starts drooling as he sees fully intact devices in the building, and Injin tells him to take his time picking the things that appeal to him because there is no trash beast nearby. Rudo goes batshit crazy as he dives into the junk pile, looking for the best things he can repair and use again. Injin just smiles as he sees firsthand how crazy Rudo is about garbage, but neither of them notice that the small TV on the top of the garbage pile is working, and it shows a vision of a man wearing gloves similar to Rudo's. Anyway, Rudo and others reach the headquarters soon after that, and they are greeted by a weirdo yelling that it is complete. Rudo doesn't even know who this guy is or what is the thing he is talking about, and before anyone can explain anything to him, the receptionist mommy says that she heard about Gob's passing. However, before she can even express her condolences, the crazy guy cuts her off and tells Rudo that his mask is done. At this point, Injin introduces the guy named August to Rudo, saying that he handles their gear, and because he is an artist, he also has a few screws loose. August then begins praising his latest artwork, saying that it is really perfect. He talks about how he didn't even meet Rudo before, but he got his measurement when he was asleep, and then he learned all about his personality from Injin and others. Rudo is shocked to hear that August entered his room and got his face measured, and the crazy bastard says that he was lucky that Rudo didn't lock his room. Rio also remarks that Rudo doesn't even sleep much, so it is already a rare achievement for August to find him asleep. Just then, the timid nurse from before rushes towards August and tells him to be quiet because he is embarrassing her in front of everyone. He doesn't even take his younger sister seriously, and Rudo can't believe how these 2 completely different weirdos can be siblings. Anyway, they get ready to leave for their mission with that, and once they get out of the building, Injin tells Rudo to take off his choker for a minute. Rudo does as he is told, and then suddenly, all the members of the group pierce and cut their fingers to draw a little blood and mark the choker with it. Rudo is confused by this weird devilish ritual, but Injin tells him that their chokers are a communication device that let them talk to other cleaners who have shared blood with them. Rudo asks if this is the reason why everyone on the ground wears chokers, and Rio affirms, saying that it works as a telephone. She says that exchanging blood gives ride or die vibes, so she really likes the idea, and Rudo puts the choker back on. He wonders what kind of technology does it use, and then thinks that maybe it is another power of the givers. Just as he comes out of his thoughts, he finds everyone staring at him menacingly, telling him that they will need to draw his blood as well, and Rudo is terrified. With the blood exchanging ritual complete, the group finally gets in the car and heads to the no man's land to find the woman who knows about the barrier. Rudo has brought along a lot of garbage he found in the dump site earlier, and Injin tells him that most of it won't even be used because they will have to walk in the no man's land, and he can't carry everything. However, Rudo claims that this is all backup, and they never know what tool can help them. Soon after that, they reach the red desert named Penta, which is one of the 5 no man's lands in this world. Tamsi is the first one to climb down into the red sand, and as he examines it, he finds that it is not sand but rust. Just then, he spots a trash beast moving towards them at great speed, and the other members of the group also notice it. Injin decides to let Rudo take care of the trash beast as his first hunt after joining the cleaners. Rudo immediately slides down the sandy slopes with his new face mask on. The fight begins, and the female supporter begins taking down notes about the trash beasts they face. Rio decides to fight 3 scorpion-type trash beasts all at once, chopping them with her giant scissors. One body part of the scorpion rolls away, hitting another trash beast in the distance, who thinks that Zanka did it because he is standing in front of it. The trash beast attacks him and pushes him back, and Zanka just focuses on dodging till he finds the perfect chance to counter. He then attacks the monster's jaw with his staff and unleashes its true ability to shoot spikes in front of it, piercing the monster's head and killing it on the spot. However, he cannot relax yet as more monsters surround him, but just as he is about to fight them, Injin dives towards him with his special move that takes down all the trash beasts except one. Rudo decides to face it himself, and he charges ahead towards the monster, pulling out a keyboard to fight it. His power awakens the hidden potential of the keyboard, and far away from him, the woman in the desert notices it. Back on the battlefield, Rudo becomes the keyboard warrior all Twitter activists think they are. He can only type like my 90-year-old grandma, but as soon as he hits enter, the keys begin floating and go high in the air before hitting the scorpion trash beast like bullets, writing the word "asshole" on its back before it turns to ash. All the monsters are defeated with that, and Injin begins examining the trash hiding under the red sands. Meanwhile, Gris begins scolding the other supporter for taking notes when everyone else was fighting. He tells her that it could be dangerous if her full attention is not on staying alive, but the girl tells him that she would forget everything if she waited for the battle to end. Meanwhile, Rudo is trying to clean the sand and dirt from his mask when he sees a glimpse of a woman in the dust clouds. However, before he can even take a step towards her, Delman and Tamsi find him. Rudo falls to the ground as he is startled by Delman's loud voice, who tells him that he couldn't see his first fight because of all the sand. Rudo thinks that he is at least useful now, but then suddenly, Delman stops talking and starts staring towards something right ahead of him. Rudo also turns around, and he is shocked when he sees a girl cheerfully walking towards them. Delman and Tamsi are on their guard as they see the girl who is not dressed appropriately for this harsh environment, and they say they couldn't even sense her presence. Everyone else also gathers around, and Injin wonders if she is the woman in the stories who has seen people come from the sphere and return. Zanka says that it is too early for them to find the woman, and Injin says that they should try to talk to her and ask for directions at least. However, Rio is a bit more direct, and she asks the girl if she has ever seen people coming from the sphere or trying to go back. The girl affirms, and Rio tells everyone that they have found the person they came here for. Injin says that they lucked out this time, and then the girl named Ammo suddenly starts coughing. She tells everyone to come to her house so that they can talk in peace, because the air here is not good for their body. Rio grows suspicious of her and asks Injin if she should go alone and talk with the girl, but he decides that all of them should go. He feels that even if the girl is plotting something, they can talk it out, and if she really turns out to be a danger, it will be better if all of them are present to fight her. However, his plan fails terribly, and once they reach Almu's house that is full of soft toys and creepy dolls, Injin throws up and collapses. Rudo is the only one conscious now, and as he tries to understand what is happening, Almu grins mischievously at him. It all started 1 hour ago, when Rudo and his friends decided to follow Ammo, unaware of her true plans. Ammo leads them to her home, which is a really tall tower supported by rocks on all sides. Everyone is surprised by this because they never thought they would find a structure like this in the middle of the no man's land. But Rudo wonders if this tall tower can take him all the way to the sphere. Unfortunately for him, the tower is not as tall as he thinks. Ammo opens the gates and asks everyone to come inside the tower. Once inside, they find a huge door that has been locked and chained tightly, and Gris remarks that he doesn't like the look of things in this place. Ammo tells him that this is the living room, and it is really messy, but they should come to her room to enjoy her hospitality. They follow her through the suspiciously well-maintained tower, and on the way, Ammo asks them to take off their masks because the nasty gas from the outside can't reach in here. She says that it is a little creepy and disrespectful if they keep wearing masks in her house. Once they reach her room, everyone removes their masks, and Ammo is really amazed to see their faces. They are also surprised to see that her room is quite whimsy for her surroundings, and the female supporter notes that down too. Rudo wonders how she could get so many things in the middle of this polluted desert, but then Ammo asks them what was the thing they wanted to talk about. Rudo shares a nod with Injin before approaching Ammo and asking her if she can tell him more about the people that can move freely between the surface and the sphere. Ammo doesn't like that topic and says that they should talk about their crushes and stuff instead. Everyone is dumbfounded by this, and Ammo says that she likes people with a strong smell, and the smell matters to her more than the face. Rudo wonders if this is Tanjiro's long-lost sister, and then Ammo takes a huge whiff to declare that the big guy at the back is the most attractive for her. She starts smiling like a maniac, giving Rudo the creeps, so Injin decides to take charge of the conversation. He asks Amo if talking about romance is the price she needs for giving them information. He says that they want to know about the people who can go back and forth between the ground and the sphere, and if she wants to talk about love and crushes in exchange of that, it is fine with him. Amo suddenly snaps at hearing this, and she begins screaming that all of them are selfish jerks who came here just to use her. She says that she was really happy that someone came to talk to her, but they probably wouldn't have come here if they didn't have another goal in mind. She starts spiraling out of control, and Injin realizes that he messed up. He tries to control the situation and suddenly tells Amo that he likes her, shocking all his friends. However, he messes up a second time by saying that, because even Amo can tell that he is lying. She crashes out, saying that she hates liars, so Injin decides to say the truest thing that comes to his mind at the moment. He tells Amo that she should cover herself up better because he gets distracted just by looking at her. Well, that was strike 3 and Amo fully loses it at this. She says that guys who want to control women's freedom are the worst, and activates her powers to fight against him. Injin had a feeling all along that the girl was a giver, but then Rudo notices that her boots have the same mark as his gloves. He feels a strange resonance to her power, and then suddenly, Amo tells Delman to shoot. Injin doesn't understand what she means, but as he turns around, he finds Delman holding a water hose towards him. Before anyone can understand what is happening, Delman shoots Injin, knocking him out with the high water pressure. Everyone is shocked to see this, and they ask Delman how could he do this, but he is clearly not in his senses. Rudo lashes out at Amo, asking what the hell did she do to Delman. He says that her boots have the same mark as his gloves, and he asks her about that too. But Amo completely ignores that part and goes back to her original question, asking everyone what kind of people they like. Everyone goes silent on hearing this, and Amo asks them why are they not talking because that is how communication works. She says that it won't be fun if she is the only one who is talking because she rarely gets guests here. Amo says that she loves guests except party poopers like Injin, and asks everyone to return to the conversation. Suddenly, Zanka starts walking towards her because he understands how to deal with the crazy girl. She only listens to the people who play along with her topic of her choice or the ones who try to stop her. Well, he chooses the second option because he is not letting anyone who harms his idol get away for free. He calls Amo a cow and says that she is his enemy, so he is going to crush her. Amo starts crying on hearing this and asks how he could call her the C word. She claims that he is being mean to her even when she didn't do anything bad. She says that she is really hurt, but Zanker realizes that an attack is coming, and he manages to dodge a heavy blow from Delman just in time. Zanka is certain that Delman is being controlled like a puppet by Amo, but turns out, her control runs deeper than that. Delman suddenly starts yelling at Zanka, asking him how could he hurt the fragile girl with his harsh words. He stands in front of her, saying that Amo is the reason he fights, and he will not let anyone hurt her. While everyone thinks that he has been brainwashed, Tamsi claims that he really means what he is saying. He knows Delman well enough to tell that he is being serious right now, and that means he is acting out of his free will. No one understands how that is possible, but then Amo tells them that the big guy has been her fan for ages. It still doesn't make sense to them because Delman won't betray his friends just for a girl. However, Amo insists that he will betray all of them just to help her. On her command, Delman activates his vital instrument, which is a water hose, and he grows bigger and stronger alongside the hose. As everyone gets ready to fight Delman, Rudo blames himself for starting a fight no matter where he goes. Suddenly, he starts hearing voices telling him that he is right, and the tainted blood of a criminal will only cause problems no matter where he goes. As Rudo starts spiraling into negative thoughts and self-hatred, he hears Amo's voice, saying that there is another one of her fans here. She says that she just wants everyone to stay here and have fun, but if someone tries to disrupt that fun, she will command her second fan to deal with them for good. Meanwhile, Rudo returns back to his nightmare, and this time, the guards from the sphere are there to capture him. He starts panting and gasping for breath as he sees them, and then one guard tries to attack him. Luckily, Tamsi snaps him out of it and saves his ass from Delman's attack at the same time. He tells everyone that Delman's vital instrument is a hose because he used to love watering plants and watching them grow big. Now, his vital instrument makes anything it hits absorb water, including human cells. As the human cells absorb too much water, they can burst like a balloon, killing his target instantly. But before today, Delman had never used that ability on humans. Tamsi is sure that Delman watered Injin from behind to knock him out, but no one can understand how he could do that without being noticed. Tamsi explains that there are different settings on the nozzle and Delman must have used the silent nozzle setting to not get noticed. Rio tells the boys that they are talking too much when they have bigger problems to deal with. She says that someone needs to help Delman chill out because he will defeat them all otherwise, and she volunteers for the job. She walks towards the big guy as everyone tells her that she is being too reckless. However, Rio believes Amo's words that there is another one of her fans there, and that is why she can't trust any of the men. However, as she turns around to stare at them, Zanka tells her to look ahead. She turns around just in time to see Delman shoot a high-pressure water stream at her that blows a hole in the wall. Luckily, Rio managed to dodge the attack in time, and Amo laughs at her for not being able to trust her friends now. She says that none of this would have happened if everyone listened to her and just talked about their romantic interests. She tells them that they still have the chance to indulge in romantic gossip, and Tamsi thinks that she is one crazy. He then turns to Rudo and tells him to get up, but he is shuddering because his hallucinations are getting even stronger. He now sees Tamsi and Zanka as the police officers from the sphere and wonders how did he reach there. Everyone is confused by this, but then they notice a strange scent in the air. Rudo also notices it too, and the world of illusions around him begins to change once again. He hears Amo's voice, telling him that while most people only think about the things they saw and heard when they talk about memories, she thinks about smells. Her appearance suddenly starts changing as she tells Rudo that if he is not going to talk about his romantic interest with her, she will make him relive his memories. Amo turns into Chiwa, the girl from Sphere whom Rudo liked, and the scenery changes to the cliff where he last met with her. He can't believe what is happening, and then the fake Chiwa pulls out the toy he gifted her. She says that she will cherish it forever, but Rudo gets angry at this because she discarded the toy while he watched. As he lives out his trauma in 4K, Tamsi finally realizes that Amo makes people see something that turns them into her allies. Amo replies that she doesn't show anything to anyone. Rather, she uses her boots to create a smell that makes them think of the happy times, and once the people get lost in their memories, they always protect her. She suddenly realizes that she spoke too much, and then Tamsi and Zanka put their masks back on, saying that if they just block the smell, they will be fine. Zanka adds that not all memories of the people they love are happy, and if someone has started to hate the people he once loved, Amo's power would backfire on her. She gets pissed at this and calls him a moron for underestimating her. She declares that her powers only make people dream about the happy times, and at the same time, Rudo is dealing with an emotional turmoil. Even though he hates Chiwa for throwing away the toy, he can't get angry at her. The happy, lovesick feeling starts to overwhelm him, and he gets the sudden urge to protect her. He sees Tasmi and Zanka as two soldiers harassing Chiwa, and as she calls for help, he dashes towards her, knocking the two men away. Zanka yells at Rudo, but he is too far to hear his voice. He still thinks they are the soldiers from the sphere, and tells them that he is not the weakling that he used to be. He declares that he has the power to protect the people he loves now, and he will use that power to kick their asses. Zanka and Tamsi realize that the situation is terrible now, but it soon gets worse. Rio and Folo get brainwashed by Amo's ability too, and they start walking towards her, saying they will protect her. Only Zanka, Tamsi and Gris are in their senses now, and as they wonder how to get out of this situation, Tamsi decides to use his ability on his friends, even though he never wanted to do it. Meanwhile, Delman remembers the happy moments of his life when he used to grow plants with his wife because she loved them. She was happy when they managed to get their first plant to grow up to a decent size after a lot of efforts. But Delman wanted to fill their house with plants to show that hope could prosper even in a polluted world like theirs. Now, Amo's power makes him think that she is his wife and Rudo. Rio and Folo are under similar illusions as well. She asks Zanka and Tamsi if they still think they can beat her, and Tamsi pulls out his thread reeling stick and turns it into a staff. Delman thinks that Tamsi and others are the bandits who hurt his wife, and he gets furious at them. He charges at them at the same time as Rudo and others, but Tamsi quickly activates his abilities, sending thick ropes in all directions. Within a split second, everyone is tied up in those ropes, but Amo doesn't think too much of it. She asks her fans to do something for her, and Rio struggles to get out of the ropes that only tighten around her legs. Everyone else does the same, and Tamsi tells them that the more they move, the more the ropes will tighten around them. However, none of them seem to stop, and Tamsi is disappointed because he thought that this level of pain would be enough to snap them out of it. Amo calls him an asshole for hurting his own friends, but she tells him that it will be useless because once someone has fallen for her, they will endure any amount of pain to help her. She laughs, saying that is about to get bloody, but then Tamsi tells her about his vital instrument. He tells her that it is a staff used to wind thread, and then immediately spins it, pulling all the ropes back to the reel. Everyone is dragged towards him along with the rope, and as it stops winding back, Rudo and others are stuck in a sturdy rope wall. Along with them, Tamsi has also caught Amo, who is now hanging upside down from the roof. Tamsi tells her to return everyone to normal, while Zanka is a bit disappointed because he didn't get to do anything this time. Tamsi replies that he called Amo a cow, which pissed her off, and that should count for something. On the other hand, Gris rushes to Tom, the female supporter who is checking on Injin. Gris is glad to see that she is wearing a mask, but unfortunately, Injin is still out of commission. Tom has put a mask on him just in case, and now they can just wait for the fight to end. On the other hand, Amo starts hurting because of the ropes, and she curses Tamsi, telling him that no one has been so rough with her in ages. She suddenly starts crying and begging for help, but Zenka thinks that no one is going to get free from the strong ropes. Well, that is not going to stop Delman and others from trying. They put all their strength into breaking free from the ropes, even as the ropes start cutting into their arms. Tamsy gets frustrated trying to hold back so that he doesn't injure his friends, and he decides to stop Delman first because he seems the most motivated to help Ammo. He suddenly manipulates the ropes around Delman, causing them to spin rapidly. Delman basically turns into a super heavy Beyblade that drills through the floors until it hits the basement. However, that is not all that his special move did. Zanka barely clings on to a piece of the floor to prevent himself from falling to the same level as Delman. He tells Tamsy that he overdid it, because everyone else is a mess too. Rudo has an iron rod poking through his stomach, while Delman is buried in debris. Rio and Folo are also lying unconscious in a puddle of their blood, but Tamsy thinks that he handled the situation well. As Zenka lashes out at him for killing his own friends, Ammo starts laughing at them, telling them that this is what happens with people who don't talk to her. She says that half of them are dead now because they didn't play along with her, and Zenka blames Tamsy for all of that. However, it seems that Rudo is still alive, and he pulls the iron rod out of his stomach. Tamsy turns towards Zanka with a menacing look on his face, and Zanka fears that he is also under Ammo's spell somehow. However, Tamsy simply asks him if he forgot about that thing. Zanka doesn't even know what thing he is talking about, and Tamsy reminds him of the spell that Rumlin painted on all of them that protected them from one life-threatening hit. Zanka realizes that as everyone gets up and immediately feels better, and Ammo can't understand what is happening. Suddenly, she finds Injin behind her, and he has swiped away her boots without her realizing it. Ammo is so shocked that she takes a few seconds to react, and in that time, Injin says that he hates the people who don't wear socks with their shoes. Ammo then suddenly lunges at him, telling him to return her boot because she won't forgive him if it loses the smell of that special person. Injin wonders what is so special about the smell, and he decides to try it out and takes a whip. He immediately regrets having free will, but Ammo keeps fighting him to return the boot. Injin tells her that he will give it back if she cancels her ability and frees everyone from her control, and she replies that she can't use her powers with a single boot, so everyone is already free. While Rudo and others sit silently, wondering what was happening to them a few minutes ago, Delman pushes away the heavy concrete slabs pressing him down. Just then, Tamsy and Zanka walk towards him, and Delman asks them what happened here. Tamsy tells him that he was affected by Ammo's power that made him think that she was someone very dear to him, and he fought really hard to protect her. Delman is shocked to hear that, but the part that hurts him the most is that his wife was still dead. For a moment, he had hopes that he could have her again, but now that reality sinks in, he is devastated. Zanka notices that everyone else who was affected by Ammo's power is also depressed, because after their dream about happy times ended, reality must have hurt them a lot. Soon, everyone wears masks, and then Injin decides to return Ammo's boot. While everyone wonders what to do with her, Injin says that though her power is crazy, Ammo is just a helpless little girl otherwise, and he doesn't feel good about hurting her. He doesn't want to take away the boots that mean so much to her either, so he thinks that teaching her not to hurt others might be the best thing for now. However, Ammo suddenly starts acting bratty again, telling them to take responsibility for thrashing her house. Zanka gets pissed at her attitude and tries to lecture her, but then Rudo takes off his mask and starts walking towards her. Ammo asks him if he just can't get enough of her smell, but little does she know what Rudo is actually planning. As soon as he gets close to her, he smacks the out of her with a punch. Ammo goes through the shock of being hit before the pain sets it, but Rudo doesn't give her a chance to fight back. He climbs on top of her as he begins to rock her with his fists, but luckily, Injin and others manage to stop him and save the girl's life. Some sort of curse begins to awaken inside of him, and as Gris tells him to stop, he takes a moment's break. Gris tells him that they don't need to go that far because they already know how to cancel Ammo's ability, and on top of that, she is a girl. Rudo tells him that he doesn't give a shit if Ammo is a girl because the Hammer of Justice is unisex. The curse begins to consume him as he asks Gris if he is supposed to let Ammo hurt and kill the people he cares about just because she is a girl, and Gris yells that he doesn't mean that. He tells Rudo that it is wrong to hurt a powerless girl, and Rudo replies that Ammo is a giver like all of them, and she was this close to killing them all. He says that she deserves even worse pummeling for her actions, and then Injin finally decides to join the conversation. He tells Rudo that he understands his thought process, but then asks how are they supposed to get information out of Ammo after he has beaten blood, snot, and tears out of her. Rudo realizes that one fraction of a thought at a time, and when his pea-sized brain finally computes all the information, he can only stare at Injin's face. Injin takes him outside to have a talk and asks Tom to patch up the girl in the meantime. Once they are outside, Injin sits silently and Rudo grows increasingly nervous. He asks him why is he not saying anything, and Injin replies that there is no need for it as he has already realized everything. Rudo explains himself by saying that the entire time he was in the sphere, he was asked to endure it. No matter what people said to him, he had to control his temper and hold it in. However, once he reached the surface, he realized that he would lose if he kept holding back. But now, after beating the crap out of Ammo, he realizes that he has gone back to his default settings. He is the same impatient and violent boy who would attack anyone without a second thought if they hurt him. He shouts that he is still a violent brat and any growth he thinks he has gone through is just an illusion. Suddenly, Injin says that he really likes women who are smarter than him, having incredible curves and a forgiving personality. Rudo is completely dumbfounded at this, but Injin continues, saying that he doesn't really do well with kids and women with complicated needs because he doesn't need any of their emotional baggage. He can't hide stuff like that from anyone, and that is one of his bad character traits. Injin tells Rudo that this was just an example, and adults have a lot of bad stuff in their life that they need to grow out of. He says that realizing this is the first step to becoming an adult, and he was made aware of his faults by someone else. Compared to him, Rudo realized everything by himself, and that means he is on the correct path to grow as a person. Rudo stares at Injin in awe on hearing this, and he tells him that they should apologize to Ammo later. Meanwhile, Tom has patched up Ammo, and she apologizes for Rudo's actions, saying that they didn't know he would go so far. She then takes off her mask, telling Ammo that she wants to be her friend, and they can talk about anything she wants. Ammo remarks that Tom will become a good mom, and then she starts talking about her mom. Ammo says that her mom was a great mom, and she was the reason she met her first love and got her treasure. Her mom also showed her the angel who travels between the ground and the sphere. Tom just treats all of that as gossip, but then she suddenly realizes that Ammo is willing to talk about people who can travel between the two worlds. As Ammo stares at the sky, she remembers her childhood, when her mother was her only family. One day, as they were traveling, Ammo spotted a crow that she found really cute. However, her mother told her that the crow would never love her, so she should forget about it. Ammo trusted every word her mother said, and she began yelling at the crow, calling it ugly. Anyway, her mother dragged her along, telling her that she was going to meet a person who would love her a lot. She soon brought her to a super shady-looking guy in the middle of the street, and Ammo's mom told her that this gentleman would be the one who would love her for the rest of her life. The little and innocent Ammo knew no better, and she trusted her mother's words. The guy, who was clearly a creep, began smiling at her, and Ammo started getting butterflies, thinking that he would really love her. She didn't even understand why the man would give her mother money, but she was too happy to think deeply about it. The PDF file took her to the tower in the middle of the no man's land, which was his personal hideout since he didn't get an invitation to Epstein Island or to Diddy parties. Ammo forgot about her mother as she began to live a life of comfort with him, and the ugly bastard groomed her constantly. One day, she asked him how did he have so much stuff, and the man replied that he was a trafficker, so he would always have more than he wanted. Then suddenly, he went off the rails and began yelling that all other people in his line of work hate him. It was nothing new for Ammo, and she watched the budget Diddy cry that they must be jealous of him because he is the only trafficker who is also a giver. The man then told her that they should do their usual ritual again so that he could calm down, but Ammo didn't want to. She told him that her heart beat really fast and she had trouble breathing when they did the ritual, but the old creep told her that it was because she was in love with him. Ammo's body had created no new brain cells ever since she was sold, and she believed him. She let the PDF happily diddle her, and then started giggling, thinking that this must be how first love felt like. She then found the old pervert whispering something to his boots when suddenly two masked strangers entered the room. The freak started yelling at them and told them to get out because this room was reserved only for him and Ammo. However, as the masked weirdos ignored him and walked towards Ammo, he decided to teach them a lesson. He activated the power of his boots and threatened to attack them, but one of the masked men moved super fast towards him and ended his miserable life with one punch. He then took off the boots and presented them to Ammo, telling her that they would suit her better. The other weirdo told her that the boots would fill the void in her heart, and Ammo accepted them after sniffing them for a bit. The masked men then walked to the crack in the wall, and one of them suddenly sprouted wings of light to fly to the sphere. Ammo was awestruck on seeing this and thought they were angels, but they were gone before she could speak to them. Just then, the old pervert woke up and Ammo eagerly told him that angels are real. However, instead of listening to her, he pushed her away, telling her that the boots belonged to him. He asked her how dare she try to take them and began stomping on her. Ammo was stupefied at this, even though this was not something new for her. She was used to getting beaten by the old pervert when she didn't obey him, but other times, it didn't feel like anything. Right then, she felt a loud thumping in her heart, and she wondered if it was because of the boots. The boots began resonating with her, and she decided to trust the words of the masked angel that they suited her better. She decided that if the boots suited her better, they belonged to her, and suddenly, she was able to awaken their power. Amo's flashback is interrupted when Rudo suddenly comes back inside and he is about to apologize to her for earlier, when Folo stops him because they have just reached the important part of the story. Amo continues her story, talking about how the old PDF was shocked to see his vital instruments respond to her because they are supposed to only respond to their owner. Amo replied that maybe the boots never really belonged to him. She didn't know much about vital instruments, but she believed the angels who told her that the boots suited her better. She told the old creep that she felt really happy holding the boots, and it was like they were something that she had been missing all this time. She politely asked him if she could have the boots, and the old man started to have a breakdown. He tried pulling the boots away, telling Amo that it was not nice to take things that belonged to others, but she pulled them back, reminding him that he was a trafficker, which is a fancy term for a thief. She told him that she asked nicely so she should have the boots, but the creep kept pulling hard, telling her to stop being so adamant. Amo begged him not to take the boots away from her, promising that she would never ask for anything again, but he refused to listen to her. He started calling her a pain in the ass and ordered her to give up, but that was when Amo snapped. She began yelling at the pervert and told him to give the boots to her already. Their argument suddenly turned into a fight with Amo biting the old man with all her strength. He managed to overpower her and take the boots away, but in the struggle, Amo accidentally pushed him out of the broken wall. She watched in silence as the creep became a distant red dot on the bottom of the tower, and then suddenly, years of brainwashing began ravaging her brain. As she sat down, she wondered why was she living with this old man, and why did her mother send her with him? The thought that she was sold to the old pervert sprang into her mind, but she didn't believe it. Instead, she gave in to her delulu and thought that her mother sent her here to be loved. She said that the old man was a good first love, and she would never forget him, but she would not stay hung up on him either. After that, Amo awakened her power and trapped many people that came to the desert. Several months later, she saw the angel again, but this time, there was only one guy. With that, Amo's story comes to an end, and everyone is left aghast on learning the truth. They wonder if the angel was a giver with the ability to create wings, or if she was simply hallucinating because she is clearly not in the right state of mind. Amo keeps drawing something on the ground while everyone comes up with theories. They decide to believe her for now and ask where did the angel land when he came back. Amo replies that he landed beyond the horizon, but Injin is not satisfied with that. He asks her when the angel came back, and she tells him that it was around a month ago. That is the only piece of information Injin finds relevant, because Rudo also came to the surface 1 month ago. Rudo walks towards Amo to apologize now, but as he sees what she is drawing, he suddenly stops. Amo has been sketching the mask of the angel, and it is the same guy that killed Recto. Rudo smirks on seeing this as he realizes that the man he is looking for is on the ground, and now he can accomplish all his missions at once. He doesn't care how strong the other guy is, or if his partner is with him, because once he finds him, he is going to beat him senseless and then ask him why he killed Recto. Next, he is going to learn how to return to the sphere and set things right, making the murderer apologize before Recto's grave. As he keeps smiling creepily, Amo suddenly calls out to him. She hits him with a talk no jutsu, saying that he is also just like her. Rudo is taken aback at that, and Amo asks if he became a human after receiving his gloves too. She says that people like them who have lost something need a lot to fill up the hole in their heart, and their special items seem to be enough for that. Amo claims that she regained her human emotions only after she received the boots, but those emotions made her realize a lot of horrible things. She starts crying as she says that now she knows what the old creep was doing to her, and how she was all alone the entire time. She just wanted someone to be with someone who needed her, but she could not gather courage to leave this place. So she waited for others to come to her and become friends with her. But since she is all messed up inside, she screwed everything. She knows that Rudo came here to apologize to her, but she tells him that there is no need for that because they are the same. She then moves one step ahead, saying that every person is the same in this world and they use their hands only when they have to beat someone, which is why the world never becomes a better place. Somehow, all this high-level philosophical stuff gets processed by Rudo's caveman brain, and he sits down before Amo, stretching a hand of friendship. He says that they should both learn how to hold out their hands to each other so that they can form meaningful connections. He says that he is not good at it either, but they can learn it together. Amo is moved by his gesture and tells him that he is doing it right now. She takes his hand, and soon after that, Rudo and others get ready to leave. Amo decides to stay at the tower for the tower being, and Rudo asks if she is sure that she doesn't want to come with them. Amo replies that she still has some things to work out here, but now she has a choker that connects her to Rudo and others. She asks him to come back sometime to talk to her, and Rudo promises that he will return someday. With that, everyone waves goodbye to her and goes on their way. In the car, Injin says that they didn't learn anything about the border, but they should consider their mission a success. They found about the angels who can cross the border, and they also saw another vital instrument with the same symbol as Rudo's gloves. Rio remembers the raider talking about the series they were from, and wonders if there are more things with the same symbol. On the other hand, Rudo keeps thinking about the angels and how angry he was when he learned that his father's murderer was here. He was mad enough to hit Amo for showing her a dream of the past, and he almost lost his mind thinking about revenge later. However, Amo's talk no jutsu seems to have softened his heart a bit, and he isn't feeling like violence right now. Meanwhile, Amo is also happy that she finally made some friends, and she wants to have a sleepover the next time Rudo and others come here. However, just as she enters her room, she finds that someone is already there. She freaks out and asks who is it, but the next moment, the stranger attacks her and takes her boots, leaving her screaming and begging to return them. The attacker turns out to be the raider Jabbar, who came here on his boss's orders because it is time for the raiders to make their move. On the other hand, Injin is driving everyone back to their base while the radio plays loudly. Injin talks over the radio's voice, asking everyone why they think he is the one always driving them. They are all too exhausted and sleepy to even hear his question, and he says that it is because he is the only one who can keep them all awake during long drives. He says that Gris is the worst one among them, because he drives so smoothly that everyone falls asleep. With that, he drives the car off a rocky ramp, jerking everyone awake instantly. Rio suddenly starts whining because of the rope marks around her thighs. Rudo stares at her injuries and says that Rumlin's spell doesn't cure other injuries, except for the one that threatens their life. Zenka says that most of those injuries are because of Tamsi, who has already apologized many times, and he is ready to apologize one more time. Injin tells everyone to forget about it because this is the risk they take whenever they step foot in no man's land. He says that they should get a proper medical checkup as soon as they find a doctor, and just then, he spots a city next to them. He immediately drives to the city, and as Rudo sees the neon lights everywhere, he realizes that it is the city where Injin brought him to get treatment. Rudo can't process that he has to face the bald hag doctor again, who treats a patient's headache by tying a bandage around his arm. The patient curses her and says he will never return again. But the old woman doesn't give two shits about wimps like him. Rio has heard that Injin always visits the old doctor whenever he comes to this city, and Zanka thinks that he just finds her character amusing. However, Injin tells them that the old woman is more amazing than they think. Once upon a time, when she was still in her prime, she was the pioneer who developed the method to treat body pollution in humans. He talks about how she used to be a normal person, but dealing with too many polluted people, and things ended up turning her into a psycho who can't talk without shouting. The old woman has had enough of this, and she tells everyone to call her Alice Stilza. Rudo feels that he has heard the last name Stilza somewhere before, when suddenly, Alice's grandson barges in, telling her that the cookies she baked suck. Rudo realizes the loudmouth guy as August, the artist who made his mask, and as he walks ahead, he sees the timid healer Aishia trying to stop him. Rudo finds it hard to believe that these two are connected to Alice, and Aishia begins telling him that the old lady is actually their grandmother. Their parents are dead, so she is their only family, and she often visits her to learn more about treating patients. August keeps on interrupting her while insulting his grandma's cookies, who tells him that he should stop eating them if he hates them so much. Soon after that, Aishia and Alice treat everyone's injuries, and their family drama continues. Zanker realizes that August can't talk without shouting because of his grandma's influence, and Aishia is the only normal person in the family. Anyway, August starts asking Rudo how his mask performed in the no man's land, but he is too busy eating cookies. Anyway, Injin decides it is time to return to the base, but August and Aishia leave before them. August warns them that the cloud is passing by and they should find cover, and Injin thanks him before he rides off. Rudo wonders what the hell he was talking about, and the answer is soon in front of his eyes. As their vehicle takes shelter under a dome like rock, trash starts falling from the sky like rain. Rudo can only stare at it with his mouth wide open, and Injin tells him that it is the sphere dropping garbage from the top. Luckily, it always follows the same route as it passes over them, so people have developed cities in areas that are far away from its trajectory. However, since the trash is falling from such a great height, its exact destination is really hard to pinpoint, and a lot of people die because of the falling debris. Tamsi adds that everyone on the surface hates the sphere dwellers for this, but anyone who tries to get revenge dies at the border. Rio agrees with him, saying that it is a mystery how Rudo and the angels crossed the barrier without dying. Rudo begins thinking deeply about it and says that he saw something when he was falling down. Tamsi is curious to hear about it, but Rudo doesn't remember anything clearly. The only thing he can tell them is that it felt like TV static flowing through his body and weird white lines that seemed to take the shape of a person for a brief moment of time. Rudo is snapped out of that creepy memory as Injin's choker rings. He finds that Semu is calling him from the headquarters, and she tells him to take the back route this time because they are currently dealing with some pests. Jin immediately changes the route, and Rudo asks him what was Semu saying earlier. They reach a destroyed city, and Injin hits a metal plate with his umbrella, unlocking a secret entrance to the headquarters. He tells Rudo that this is the back entrance, and as the pests that Semu referred to are just bandits. At the same time, the bandits are armed with rocket launchers to destroy the cleaners' headquarters and capture the spherite they are hiding. Their leader fires a rocket at the building, thinking that it will be really easy for them to enter the building and catch the spherite, who will fetch an incredible price in the black market. Rudo learns about this too, and he tells Injin that they should immediately head back and help the cleaners defend the headquarters. Injin sighs, saying that they don't even need to do anything, but he is a bit disappointed that he didn't get to fight much in the no man's land, so he decides to beat up some bandits. On the other hand, the bandits are confident that the cleaners will listen to their demand after the warning attack. He loudly tells the cleaners to hand over the spherite if they don't want a second hole in their building. He speaks to them through a loudspeaker, saying that she finds it refreshing to see cowardly insects like them attacking from the front. The leader of the bandits says that they like to fight fair and square, but that is a big fat lie. Another team of bandits is trying to break into the building nearby, and the leader just wants to buy time for them. He tells Mew to stop stalling them and hand over the spherite, but then Mew suddenly remarks that she is not a woman. All the bandits are bamboozled on hearing this, but turns out Mew was just pranking them. She tells them that they are so easy to fool, and the bandit leader gets pissed. Mew doesn't even allow him to rage out and asks him to quit right now because he can't do anything. He confidently says that he blew off the top of the building just now, but as the smoke clears, he finds that the building doesn't have a single scratch on it. Just then, the other bandit team arrives there after their tools were destroyed while trying to break open a window. Mew tells them that they can't enter the cleaners' headquarters without permission, and the only person who can give them permission is the ultimate shut-in, who is shivering in his room just thinking about the unwanted guests. Suddenly, Mew opens the door, telling the bandits that they will never get permission to come inside, so she came outside to finish them off. The leader of the bandits gets pissed at this, and immediately fires a rocket at her, but Mew awakens the power of her glasses that allows her to see the world in slow motion. She casually dodges the rocket, and then grabs it, turning its direction and sending it towards the bandits. They don't even have time to panic fully, as the explosion takes down half of them in an instant. The remaining bandits open fire on Mew, but she dodges the bullets like I dodge my responsibilities and rushes towards the bandits, taking them down with swift and powerful kicks. She knocks them all down in a couple of seconds, and Injin is disappointed to see that there is no one left to beat anymore. He says that Semyu is too good at it, but she replies that they were just low-level thugs and she would unalive herself if she couldn't beat them so easily. She then grabs one of the bandits by his hair and asks who the hell told him that they have a spherite. The bandit is unconscious, so he can't answer her, but both Semyu and Injin know that the raiders are behind them, and they are probably planning something big to get their hands on Rudo. Anyway, soon after that, Jin takes his team to a restaurant to eat, and Rudo asks him why do they keep partying after every mission. He says that their base was just attacked, and they should be more cautious, but no one listens to him. They tell him to shut up and enjoy the food, because low-level bandits are never going to be any danger to their headquarters. Jin says that this was not the first time they attacked their base and failed, and Rudo asks if Semyu always defeats them. Injin affirms, saying that they need some really crazy abilities to get past Semyu, and Rudo asks why is someone as strong as her just a receptionist. Jin replies that Semyu's power is in her glasses, and that allows her to see things that other people can't. However, that is useless while fighting trash beasts, and more than that, Semyu always wanted a desk job. Rudo now understands that just being a giver doesn't make one a fighter, and Rio explains that it depends on the personality of the giver and how they treat their vital instrument. Those who care about using their items to the fullest become combat-type givers, while those who want to keep them in perfect shape forever become defense-type givers. Rudo is curious now, and he says that he wants to see more types of givers to figure out how their powers work. Tells him that he is lucky because some people with really unique powers are on their way here. And just then, a girl wearing a Pokemon onesie comes and breaks through the door. She strikes a pose and declares that Team Child is here, and behind her, the other two members of her team are present. As soon as Rudo sees the creep with a pacifier in his mouth, he remembers the time he had to share sweets with him, and he immediately hides his food because he doesn't want to share it this time. The Snorlax greets Rudo, saying that they are meeting after a long time, but Rudo doesn't even remember meeting her before. This breaks her heart, and she reminds him that she was there in the room when he first introduced himself. Rudo is confused because he still doesn't remember her, but just then, the leader of their team comes there to introduce everyone. He introduces the girl as Gita, the angry brat with the pacifier as Santa, and himself as Bro. He says that they should get along well from now on, and Gita immediately jumps towards Rudo, asking him more about the sphere, but he is creeped out by her. Bro and Injin tell her not to talk about the sphere outside the base because anyone can be listening to them. Injin says that the bandits who attacked them yesterday got to know about Rudo from some stranger at the bar, who handed them the information without asking for anything in return. He is pretty sure that the raiders were behind it, and they wanted to get information about the defense of the cleaners' base without taking any risk. While the adults are discussing this, Gita chases after Rudo because she has no concept of personal space. He somehow manages to shake her off and sits on an empty table to rant out about how careless everyone is when they just got attacked. The hooded guy sitting next to him takes interest in his story and asks if someone is targeting him. Rudo casually reveals that some bandits attacked him, but the man remarks that he must be talking about the raiders. He warns Rudo that raiders are really dangerous, and he should be really careful when dealing with them, because they have recently gotten a new leader, and he will do anything to achieve his goals. The man then suddenly remarks that the raiders are looking for things like the boots in his hands. As Rudo looks at the symbol on the boots, he immediately recognizes them as Ammo's boots. But before he can even alert his friends, the man grabs his throat, revealing that he is the leader of the raiders. As soon as Rudo's brain finishes processing what just happened, he attacks the leader of the raiders. His friends have also noticed it by now, and they rush to back Rudo up. However, the girl with the raider boss uses her power to open a portal to their base right behind his head, and he dodges at the last moment, letting Rudo get sucked into the portal after him. Injin tries to grab onto Rudo, but he can't stop him from getting sucked in, and all the cleaners with him are instantly pulled inside the portal as well. The girl vanishes and the portal deactivates, leaving only Gris and the supporters behind. As Rudo and others crash land in the enemy base, they begin wondering since when did the raiders become confident enough to attack them in public. However, Rudo's attention is fixed on the raiders, who are ready for a showdown with the cleaners for his gloves. As the raiders and cleaners stare each other down, Rudo furiously asks the raiders where is Ammo. They don't even bother to give him an answer, so Injin tells them that they won't be able to capture Rudo because everyone is here to back him up. Zadal, the leader of raiders, doesn't respond to his taunt and instead pulls out a watch from his pocket. He reminds Rudo that just now, he was worrying about how relaxed the cleaners were, but he was wrong because everyone on the surface is always on high alert. He knew they would not leave Rudo alone, and bringing them here was a part of his plan all along. The clock strikes 12, and then suddenly, a huge wave of garbage is released from the sewer pipes at once. Rudo is too stunned to even move from his position, but a hang grabs his collar and pulls him away right before the garbage hits them. The cleaners are swept away by the massive junk wave helplessly, and Zanka keeps resisting the flow as others are sent sliding down a tunnel. He somehow latches to the roof of the tunnel when he sees Injin sitting on his umbrella and casually surfing the trash wave. Zanka is astonished to see how he can be so nonchalant in this situation, and Injin tells him that the more he fights the waves, the more he will be pushed around. He tells him to hold on to something and go with the flow, because he can save most energy that way. Zanka takes his advice seriously and tries to follow him, but soon, the tunnel splits into two. Injin goes to the right and Zanka tries to give him company, but he ends up being pushed to the left side where everyone else is. Meanwhile, Rudo is still at the starting point because the one who pulled him away from the trash wave was Zadal. He throws Rudo to the ground once the trash wave has passed, and Rudo is in shock at what just happened. He asks Zadal where the hell did he send his friends to, but the raider boss tells him that the question is not important. The cleaners tagged along of their own will, and now they are responsible for whatever happens to them. However, he doesn't plan to give them a chance to return here and spoil his fun. So he commands the sewer cap girl to create portals leading to the cleaners. She obeys his command, creating 4 portals in the air, and the raiders jump inside them. The crazy claw guy Jabber is among them as well, and he tells Rudo that it is a shame they won't be able to fight this time, but he should have fun playing with their boss. Once everyone is gone, Zadal asks Rudo if he is angry just because they stole Ammo's boots, or if there is a greater reason behind his rage. He reveals that he wanted to meet Rudo to make good use of his rage, because together, they can take down the sphere. Rudo stares blankly at Zadal, but then a vision pops up in his mind. He sees buildings and people on fire as the sphere crashes to the ground, and Zadal remarks that he saw the same thing too. He says that even though he has never seen the sphere and doesn't know much about it, the vision showed him exactly what Rudo wanted. The vision was not how they would bring down the sphere, but what would happen to their target when they do so. Rudo sees another vision, and this time, it is a pile of dead bodies of his enemies. He immediately snaps out of it and yells at Zadal, telling him to answer his question first. He asks what happened to Ammo and other cleaners, but Zadal replies that he already gave the answer in his own way, and now Rudo should answer his question. He claims that he hates waste, and that is why he doesn't want to waste any words either. Rudo is at a complete loss now because he doesn't know how to deal with this nut job. He feels that dealing with Ammo was difficult because she would not listen to anything they said, but Zadal is on a completely different level because his words seem like a chain around him. He checks his stock of junk and wonders if it will be enough to fight Zadal, but the raider boss sees through his plans. He decides to disarm Rudo using words, and asks the reason he joined the cleaners in the first place. Rudo replies that he joined them to find a way to return to the sphere, and Zadal immediately tells him that it is not possible. He says that reaching the sphere is not a part of the cleaners' job profile, and they are only helping him because he is more useful to them than he thinks. Rudo starts getting nervous now, and Zadal asks him if he is satisfied with this fake friendship he has with the cleaners. Meanwhile, everyone else has been separated by the trash wave. Rio finds herself in a strange place with garbage in her mouth and inside her clothes. As she finishes cleaning up, She starts looking for her friends, when suddenly, a raider pops out of a portal behind her. She immediately starts dissing Rio, calling her a scared lost kitten searching for her friends. But Rio is not bothered by that at all. Instead, she is amused to see that after dragging them all to their base, the raiders are trying to fight them one-on-one. At the same time, the other cleaners also come across their opponents, with Zanka finding that he is up for a rematch with Jabber. As soon as he sees his arch enemy, Zanka immediately forgets about reuniting with his friends or finding Rudo, and awakens his staff. Jabber does the same, and the two of them go at each other with killing intent. As they exchange blows, Jabber suddenly gets distracted by the sound of bubbles in a dirty liquid nearby, and he heads towards it to try it out. He touches the back of his palm against a bubble, and the acidic liquid immediately burns it. He starts jumping around because of the pain, and Zanka wonders if he has lost the only functional brain cell he had. But then suddenly, Jabber's left claw becomes coated by the same acidic liquid. Zanka is shocked to see this, and Jabber explains that his right claw's neurotoxin ability cannot be changed, but he can replicate any type of poison he experiences in his left claw. The acid dripping from his claws begins melting the ground as well, and Jabber asks him to try his best to dodge it. He then swings his claw, sending a barrage of acid droplets towards Zanka, who can only wait for them to hit him. Meanwhile, Gita rolls out of a sewer line and enters an empty space, but surprisingly, Zotl has nothing planned for her. She is disappointed that she is all by herself, but then suddenly, she hears someone approaching her. It turns out to be a cockroach, and Gita gets really excited to see it. At the same time, Rio also sees a cockroach and freaks out, but then she acts cool in front of her opponent, saying that she is not afraid of insects, but roaches creep her out. The blonde mommy gets upset at her for getting creeped out by mere cockroaches when she is a cleaner, but Rio tells her that she is still reacting normally because they have a guy on their team who once passed out after getting poop on his clothes. Zanka, the guy in question, has just taken Jabber's acid attack head-on, and instead of dodging, he placed himself behind a pool of the acidic liquid. Jabber is surprised that he didn't dodge, but Zanka coldly replies that it was not going to knock him out, so it is pointless to dodge such things, and also he is more comfortable with an acid shower than having shit on his clothes. He then tells Jabber to enjoy an acid shower himself as he overturns the ground and flings the entire acid pool on him, and the crazy odd dude just stares at it with a smile on his face. Meanwhile, Jin is stuck with a kid who is not even interested in fighting. He hides behind a closet while Injin keeps nagging at him to come out and talk because he is getting bored. The boy gets impressed with Injin's ability to yap continuously, but he still doesn't go out of his way to talk to him. Bro and Santa are also stuck with an old dude who doesn't attack them, and just casually sits at a high spot, telling them that they are underground and no reinforcements will come for them. Rio also finds it out after realizing that she can't contact anyone with her choker. The blonde baddie smiles on hearing this, and then awakens her comb's power, brushing her hair as she reveals that the first instruction that gave them was to defeat as many cleaners as they can if anyone aside from Rudo comes here. She then introduces herself as Noard and declares that she is going to offer Rio to Zotl as her offering. Rio pulls her scissors as well and tells Noard that she doesn't like fighting people. The blonde mommy tells her to get over it, or she may never see her friends again. Rio takes her advice and awakens her scissors, immediately dashing in for an attack. Noard dodges her first kick, but Rio manipulates her scissor next to chop off her hair, forcing her to back away. She realizes that it will be hard to dodge Rio's attacks, while Rio is confident that uses her hair to fight, which is a really bad matchup against her scissors. She rushes towards Noard again, who keeps brushing her hair without even bothering to look at her. On the other hand, Zanka keeps watching the battlefield eagerly, waiting for Jabber to pop out of the acid pool somehow. When he doesn't come up, Zanka gets impatient and taunts him to come out. He begins wondering if Jabber really died from the acid, because he survived a lot worse in the past. He goes over to his location to check what is going on, and as he suspected, Jabber is still alive and giggling inside the rubble. He suddenly pushes through the rubble with giant claws acting as a shield. Jabber spreads his claws, smiling menacingly as he declares that it has been too long since someone was able to draw out his full potential. Well, he regrets doing that now, because if Jabber was not fighting at his full potential till now, it means he must be incredibly strong. Zanka starts tweaking as Jabber tells him to release his full potential as well, because there is no way all he can do is swing his funny staff. Back at Rio's location, she suddenly finds herself on the ground, unable to move. Her entire body hurts as if she has been struck by lightning, but she doesn't understand how that could happen when she just touched Noard's hair. She can't figure out her power, so Noard decides to explain it to her. She says that it is a common fact that hair accumulates static electricity when rubbed with plastic, and her vital instrument is a comb made out of plastic. That means her hair is full of static electricity, and Rio's metal scissor is a terrible matchup against her. Rio somehow gets back on her feet, but she has no idea how to fight against Noard now. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.